with him. And so we are almost ready to go. Yes, we are ready to go. And in the meantime, we'll tell you all about Sam. He will tell you all about himself. So I just want to say good evening to all the listeners of DBS Radio, wherever you are at this time. I want to say good evening and stay tuned to the Nation Station, the number one. We have our popular Lakou program, and I'm sure tonight this program is going to really rock your mind because I've spoken to Sam and he's excited and ready to go. So let's, as we are about to start the program, I should take a few, how could I call it, promos to let you know all about DBS Radio.
This is your nation station, DBS Radio.
It's always a better choice. My one and only station.
DBS Radio. DBS, the nation's number one.
The Nation Station, DBS Radio, says thank you to you and to everyone for choosing the Nation Station, DBS Radio.
Yo, what's up?
Baby, let's go!
Turn your TV on. Listen to DBS on Digicel TV Channel 50 and Flow TV Channel 951. DBS, the nation's number one.
I am sure that many of you all are excited. Those of you all are looking on. It's the scores 1-1.
Choice. My one and only.
Young Pierre has just taken a wicket.
S Radio.
Okay, so we are getting ourselves ready for our program with Sam George. I just want to say good evening to you, Sam. Good evening to you and to all the folks that are tuned to DBS Radio this time. Good evening to you, Sam.
Good evening, Cecil. Good evening.
Well, you have that excited voice forever, boy.
Oh, really?
Yes, man. Thank you for choosing to be on with me tonight. I'm very excited to have you.
Well, thanks to your brother, Derek. He asked, so here I am. And as he told you, not really. I'm not really a shy guy. I just like to be, in the back working, rather than in the front talking. But, sometimes you have to do what you have to do, right? So here I am.
Well, tonight you'll be telling us about all the works that you have done in Grand Fond. I'm sure that some people hearing your name, Sam George, they already link George to Grand Fond.
Yes. I think Grand Fond has a couple sets of Georges.
Couple sets? Couple is two,
Yeah, that's true. I think we have two groups of Georges in Grand Fond, two groups of princes. It's an interesting Grand Fond is an interesting village.
Yes, for sure.
Just
on the
to
mountain.
Get started here.
On the mountain.
The interesting thing about Grand Fond is in a valley, but it is on a mountain, and it still has its valleys.
Yes. That's amazing, Grand Fond it's located in a valley, but it is also on a top.
Yeah, it's also on a mountain.
Yes.
And it has several valleys, from Prong to Découvert to, there are so many, I don't even remember all of the places. There is Rongpan, and they have valleys, and all the way to Titu Gorge and everything. But first of all, before we jump into this, let me say good night to everyone locked in on DBS Radio. Let me say good night to my mom, my parents, who are also watching as well. So thank you, guys. And of course, you can also catch the program tonight. We're simulcasting this on my radio network, which is TDN Network. So you can check us out there. For those of you who follow TDN Network, you'll find us on our Facebook and our YouTube and so forth. And we can talk about all of that a little bit later on, Cecil, but we'll give you back your hosting duties.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. It's good to work in collaboration. You know what I'm saying? Every one of us
Yeah.
need each other.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I know is TDN Network has worked with DBS Radio in collaboration many, many times before. Of course, good night to my wonderful wife who is watching as well. I don't want to forget that before I get into trouble.
Ooh, you would. You would.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, TDN has collaborated with DBS many times before in the past, So we are here, especially when we brought programs live from the United States and we needed to link up with DBS to, inform the nation. We've done that before, and it has always been an honor, a pleasure with the good folks out there at the nation station.
Let's take a walk in Grand Forks. That's where you're from. That's where your life began. That's the community that molded you. And let's talk about Grand Forks. Tell us a bit about Grand Forks.
Wow, Grand Forks. Grand Forks is one of those places where if you grew up in Grand Forks, you understand the place. I think Grand Forks is one of those communities where everyone, we're all neighbors. One of the things I could say is I grew up with not just neighbors around, but family around, So basically, my neighbors were my cousins, or either my uncle or my granduncle or, something like that. And let me shock you, your own Curtis Matthew is actually my relative.
That is a shocker to me. He's from Monjon, not far away from Grand Forks.
Yeah.
So it means that you would have had some family lineage in Monjon.
Well, his mom is from Grand Forks.
Ah.
As a matter of fact, his grandfather was I would say my great-granduncle, because my great-grandfather and his granddad were brothers.
Ah. So his direct link to you.
Yeah.
And your lineage.
Yes, exactly. So, like I said, Grand Forks was a place where at least I hope so it still is, a place where, if you're hungry, you could go by the neighbor, especially us as kids, you go by your family and have something to eat. My family, we used to have a lot of we grew a lot of oranges and grapefruit, my grandfather. And that was one of our jobs during the summer or the holidays, myself and my older cousins, even the younger ones as well. We would spend our summers either picking and bagging grapefruits and oranges, or harvesting dashing and carrying dashing from Orlando back in the Rongpan area. And so we did a lot of work on bananas and so forth, So we grew up working, all of us. Everyone, even my cousins, they would come up, some of them who lived in the city at the time, they would come up to Grand Forks and they'd be carrying dashing just like the rest of us who grew up who lived in the village. So, my grandfather, and he used to pay us too, because sometimes, especially when we picked our oranges and grapefruit, because back then there used to be some market, they would come up, pick up the bags and I guess Hoxter or whatever it is they did. But there was one time we grew plenty of oranges and harvested plenty of oranges, grapefruits. It was just it was an interesting life, as you probably know, growing up them days, I get plenty volley. Especially when they sent me in the shop, which was 5 minutes down the road, and I took 2 hours to come back, and I probably lose the money because I play, I doing something I probably shouldn't be doing, and but all of that I believe is what shaped me to be, where I am, the person I am today, which is kind of focused, try to make something good of myself and make my parents proud, I should say.
Let's go back a bit to the garden life. At any time when your grandparents would have asked of you to come and assist, especially to pick the oranges and the grapefruits, did you cry? Did you give rudeness? Did you decided that you're going to play games and not want to do it?
First of all, you couldn't say no to my grandfather. All right, that man was a man. If he said whatever he said, went. You could not say no to this man. So maybe I would be upset and I don't really want to do it, but I didn't have a choice. Unless I wanted a volley, you know. And my dad didn't play. Discipline was very important to him, and which I think this is what made you know that your parents love you, and your parents want the best for you. You had to obey, and of course, naturally, there were times we disobeyed. There were times my dad would tell me, don't go on the road, because we would go play cricket or we would go play football on the road with whatever we had. We would, be running sec up and down the road. And sometimes, there were times when I see my dad walking up the road from his garden down Rosalie if I didn't go with him, because, and there were times, he would make me come to Rosalie with him because he worked that land down there as well. And if I see him coming, I pick up my sack and I run home. Plenty of times I thought he didn't see me, or I saw him before he saw me, but all the time he saw me before I saw him. And then when he gets to the house, he'd be like, "What did you do with yourself today?" Or "What did you do today?" And one thing he always said was, when I begin counting, because we had to go carry water before we got water in the yard. We had to go before we had standpipes. We had two at the top of the village. So you either go whichever one had less people, kids pulling up their bucket and then taking it home before they go to school. Before that, we would go round pan to get water. Then we got the standpipes. One was by closer to the top of the village. The other one was close to Fountain, what's his name? Thompson Fountain and Ruskin and these guys. People I grew up around. So it was a constant struggle, because sometimes the water would reach right by the fountain's house and it wouldn't go further. So the line would be just, a crazy line waiting, and then everyone has to get to school for 9:00. So it was a constant struggle until, Dawasco fixed this problem, but it took a long time. And so, running hoops away at night.
We're going to come to all of this, and because I'm loving what you're saying. I want people who might not be sure of who you are from Grandford, because you look like you escape, you party, you ran away for a number of years, and some person may not be able to place your face, So tell us, who is your mom and your dad?
Yeah, no, man. I spent a lot of time. I'll get to that, but I spent a lot of time in Dominica before I left. I mean, I worked a lot in Dominica. I worked almost maybe 20 years before I moved. But then again, I started working at 16 years old. So it might be more than that. So my parents, Eugene George, and my mom, Agustina George. I have six siblings, or seven siblings, including myself. Let's see, the three of us are out of Dominica, and the others live and work in Dominica. One of my brothers is a chef. His name is Alston, and one is a mechanic. The youngest one is actually a mechanic. His name is Jason, and then one works in insurance. That's Yannick, and then my sister. She's a police officer. So,
What's her name? Her name?
Giselle.
Okay, George.
Yeah, well, Ishmael, actually.
Okay.
So she's married and so forth. So, you know, so that's, in a nutshell who we are. We grew up, all together, um, except for my older brother and my older sister, because, they were, before my parents got married. So they have a different moms. So, but the rest of us grew up together, running between my dad's house and my grandparents' house. So my dad built his house right next to his parents' house. So it's kind of a yard essentially. And my mom's parents, their house is further up. It's one of the last houses in the village. And we used to have a shop called they would come Madadette. Yeah. So those of you who remember Madadette, she was my grandmother.
No, tell us, you're telling us about your family and your home and so on. Tell us how big your house was at that time.
Well, so early on, my dad, as I was told, I don't know, before I was born, my dad built his house when he was a teenager, essentially. So he built his house with one bedroom. When my parents got married, I was born as well as I had a sister she passed away when she was 6 years old. And for a long time, it was just me and my parents. And then my Giselle was born a few years after. And Karen was her name, the one who passed away. Karen was her name. And then Giselle was born a few years later. So then it was just the two of us for a while. So, we had one room. So we all slept in the room. We had a separate, there was separate beds in the bedroom because it was big enough. And then when my other younger brothers came along, my dad decided, okay, it's time to add to this house. So added 2 more bedrooms. And so that way my parents ended up having their own separate bedroom. And then, but even by that time, I was pretty much gone already. So the younger ones got to enjoy their own separate bedrooms. Like I said, things weren't perfect. Obviously, we weren't rich in cash per se, but we had plenty of land. So we were able to grow our own food. My dad, a farmer and a builder, and he traveled a few times. Went overseas and worked, and then came back, and so it was an interesting life living us with my mom, but so we didn't. I don't think we could really complain. We did do the I call it the rice and yellow water, and just typical life in the country. Nothing extra, nothing out of nothing extraordinary. Just trying to survive and doing what we needed to do, and helping out on the farm. And these days, a couple of my brothers, they still work on the land. And
So
even if they have
before you
jobs.
go there, I want to know the life in the house. Did you all sleep on bedding, like we heard last week? Did you all have your own beds in the room?
Yeah, we had 2. So my parents had their own bed, and then we had another bed that we shared. And then, but mostly I like sleeping on the floor for whatever reason. I'll let my sister sleep on the bed, and I would sleep on the floor. So yeah, we had that. Like I said, you grew up in a 1-bedroom house, so obviously sometimes I would actually go sleep in the living room. Take my bed and make my bed in the living room and sleep there. So I to this day, I heard people talking about they don't like sleeping on the floor. I still like sleeping on the floor. I think it's the best. It keeps the back solid. Yeah.
PP a lot?
Yeah, man. At one time, I believe my mom used to actually come and wake us up to go use the bathroom because, or they use the pool to to use local parlance, she would wake us up so we don't pee the bed. Because I guess at one point she was tired of washing bed.
Penis? What about penis?
I don't believe we ever really had that. If we did, I can't remember because the PP bed would not stay in the house before the end. By the end of the day, it would have to be washed and put to dry because it would not remain in the house. Because I believe this happens when you leave it there and it festers, essentially. But I don't believe that we ever experienced that. I know other people who did, but I don't think we at home ever really experienced that. My siblings, I can say that we never really experienced like things like sibling rivalry or any of those things. We all always got along. I guess it's due to the way our parents raised us, to respect each other, to be kind to one another, and so forth. So,
that time growing up in Grand Forks, how Grand Forks was like in terms of the sense of community spirit? How was that at your time?
Man, Grand Forks was one of the greatest places to grow up in at that time in terms of community spirit. As I said, everyone knew you, and you could not walk by an adult and not greet them. You could not, if you would probably get a slap or you would probably get some admonishment or when your parents come home or when you get home. By the time you get home, as a matter of fact, if you pass an adult on the street, your parents already know what you did. I don't know. We didn't even have telephone at the time, so I don't know how it used to happen. But by the time you get home, your parents already know that you disrespected an adult, and you'll probably get it. And if you complain, you'll probably get it twice. So, it was interesting. It was fun. Grand Forks was also a little bit of a scary place sometimes because we used to hear them zombie stories and all of that, but I remember one time I went down the road because I had my aunt lived at down by the school center area. And I went down there and I stayed late. When I was coming back up, I was scared, so scared, even knowing that turning your clothes wrong side isn't gonna do anything. If something, some spirit was after you, I took my shirt off, turned it on the wrong side, and I basically running up the hill. I met my mom coming down the road looking for me because, of course, no phone. I can't call them and tell them that I was by my aunt's house. And I was remembering that they used to talk about white fowl that would be outside when you're up late at night. Stories to scare children, make sure you go home before dark. And so that was on my mind and, silliness. But at the same time, it was a fun place to be because, we could run around in the village. There was very few vehicles on the road. So at night, especially, during night, we on the road running, playing hoops away and by the moonlight, if there's moonlight. Sometimes it's dark and, So like I said, it was fun growing up in the village, getting to play cricket, running Vepcat down the hill, just, crazy stuff.
No, talking about crazy stuff, Grand Forks is, as you said, is in a valley, but it's on the top of a mountain. So it means that you have to go down every time down a hill or up a hill. When you have your scooters, your carts, how did you all make that out? I know that there wasn't much vehicles, but still scary. How did you all make that out?
It's a wonder, no one ever really got seriously injured doing these things. I mean, we'd make a Vepcat and go down the hill, and then you have to walk back up the hill. No brakes, or your slippers was your brakes or your shoe or whatever. I remember we saw an old bicycle. I don't even know whose bicycle that was. It was an old BMX. And one of the guys we grew up around, Clem, he was going down that hill and going down the hill on that bicycle, and this kid ran out of his parents' house, and in order to avoid him, and just threw himself onto there was a little hillside, and he's running down, racing down the hill, and we chasing after him, and we just saw this boy just run out of their house, trying to avoid him, and Clem fairly hit his hand, broke his wrist. And that was it. I mean, you just saw his wrist swell instantly, and the young man, the boy's uncle, came out of the house, saw what happened, picked Clem up, and just ran down the road, down to the health center. And after that, my aunt was the nurse, the district nurse at the time. I mean, and this didn't stop us from continuing, to go down the hill on the bicycle with no brakes or the crazy Vepcat and all of that. So it's just, like I said, it was an amazing time, I should say, full of lessons, full of fun and lessons, lessons for life growing up.
So you built trucks. You built trucks.
Yeah, man. We built our cabway. We draw elaborate roads on the road, and we would play, different kinds of games, played knots, played marbles, do all kinds of things,
No, you spoke earlier on about sick.
Yeah.
It seems like you as a boy, like you're sick. Give us some demonstration as to how really that you would have a sick going down a hill in Grand Fort or climbing up the hill in Grand Fort. Because I'm trying to imagine you going up with a stick, which was for me the hardest thing to do sometimes, with a stick inside or be in between the wheel, and to push that thing up.
Well, I think if I remember clearly, we would use the high tension wire. We would use that and create like a hook, shape it like a hook, and sort of like a semicircle essentially, and you make the set with a pail cover, either the breeze or when the pork used to come in the 5-gallon bucket. Take that, you cut off the center, and the wire would fit between that. Some people would put a handle on it, and you go down the hill. Sometimes we wouldn't go all the way down the hill. What we would actually do is draw a road or draw a path on the road, and you would have to stay within that line, within those lines. If you cross the line, then you alter the game essentially, and then you get a chance to come back, or that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just it was just those fun times. Again, like I said earlier, plenty of times my dad caught me on the road, and after he tell me don't go on the road, and take my sack, throw it away. Next day I make another one.
Wow. So basically you did your sec with your painting.
No, not a painting, man. The bucket.
Sorry, the bucket. Yeah, the bucket, the 5-gallon bucket. Yeah.
Bucket?
Yes.
Yeah, we take the cover. Well, the empty ones, of course, you can't take your parents when they're stuff full of breeze or pork or whatever. You can't take that. But we get an empty one. Or sometimes you would find old ones in the bush, cut off the center, and you have your sack. There were high tension wire all over the place in Grand Fort, because after they brought electricity to Grand Fort, there was like a few places where you could find long pieces of the armored cable that they used to
So what about tires of cars and so?
Yeah, I remember we used to have somebody had found once, or at least once or twice, somebody would bring a car tire and take 2 sticks and run down the hill with that, and then you have to carry it back up. So I don't know, maybe this was a way of teaching us endurance and strength, and and so on. But yeah,
What about
Uh,
bicycle? What about bicycle ribs?
Bicycle ribs, I don't remember if we ever had that. Like I said, I only remember one person having a BMX. I don't even remember who it was. And almost everybody would get a turn to ride that bike. Sometimes the bike had brakes, sometimes it didn't. Mostly it didn't have brakes. I believe it was also Clem's bike, it might have been. His name is Clem Lewis. Um, so yeah, it
No,
was
no,
just
in your yard, outside of your brothers and sisters, who else lived around? What are the things that you all would have done in that yard?
so in our yard, it was my grandfather's house and my dad's house. And then we had cousins living around, like I said, Curtis's cousins, um, like his mom's brother, his children, now like people like Kendall Prince, and some of you might know John Baptist Prince. He used to be a police officer. He's actually Curtis's uncle. Um, so yeah, we had another set of princes. My grand uncle, his kids were on the other side. Like I said, we were kind of surrounded by family. It was mostly cousins in the area. So be running up and down in the yard, go to the garden, come back, running in the yard, running between houses, back and forth, and then we on the road or we in each other's yards. It was just, it was something else. It was something else.
What about the life of school? How far was school from your home?
Not far. I mean, Grandfather Primary is in the center of the village. So if you ever been to Grandfather, you know where the school is. So we live right at the top of the village. So it wasn't that far. I mean, I don't remember ever really checking the distance. So I would say maybe about half an hour. It's not even half an hour, maybe 15 minutes walk. At least going to school. Um, but when we're coming back from school, where it's an hour most of the time,
You got to play. You got to do all kind of things.
especially at 3 o'clock after, when school ends, you know, especially when school ends, we coming up the road, we playing, sometimes got into disagreements. But it was all next day we back at school and we're friends. It's nothing serious.
In,
Unlike these days.
in a community like Granford, would you all make tobacco?
I don't think anybody ever really made two back. No, maybe a few people did, but I don't remember who they were or if they actually did. So I can't say. I don't remember.
But for sure, at 3:30 when school was over, you all would find yourselves in somebody's garden to get mangoes, to get cane, and so on. Especially on a Friday, would you all have done that?
The thing with grandfather never really grew mangoes. We used to have a lot of sugar cane in our yard as well. Or we would go by well, actually call him cousin Arnold, but Arnold George. We used to go by, he used to have tons of cane. So we used to get cane from there as well. And we had a neighbor, he didn't live in the area, but he had land that neighbored ours, Mr. Cyril. We ate a lot of Mr. Cyril's cane.
Mr. Cyril, if Mr. Cyril hearing you now, but he might tell you send his money for him now.
Oh my goodness, I hope Mr. Cyril doesn't send us a bill.
No. What was it? What was school like? I mean, you would have gone to school, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5. Tell me your preparation getting to grade 6.
Now, school is interesting for me because I don't think I went to grade 6 in Grand 4. I don't remember, but I went to Rosa Boys School for a short while, because an uncle of mine had come back from England in the 80s, and he bought a house, and the house he bought actually in Rosa belonged to the former Prime Minister, Dominica's first Prime Minister, Patrick John. And he repaired the house, and we stayed there for a little while. And then I went back to Grand 4. And then after that, I actually went straight to Clifton Jupiter Community College from Granford, because I actually had the option to either go to high school or go to CDCC. Now, the thing about going to Clifton Jupiter Technical Wing was by the time I was 15, I could already wire a house by myself, because my uncle, Oliver, when he came back from England, he came back with lots of skills. He could wire a house, he was a carpenter, so he taught me everything. He taught me everything he knew, except for the mechanic thing. I could not really get that. And so when I went to Clifton Jupiter by teachers, I studied both electronics, electricals, and computer science. So that would be Mr. Reds Bruni, Mr. Pascal, and Cedric Pemberton, my great friend Cedric Pemberton, my computer science teacher. So I could have taken a job in any of those fields. And I did electricals for a long time. Electricals and computer networking. I did all of this in Dominica for a very long time. One of the last jobs I did in Dominica was for the a networking job we did for the La Salette Credit Union. That was before, I guess they are joined with the league now, but when they were still independent. So like you said, I didn't run away. I spent a long time working in Dominica. I worked on the Fortune Hotel, worked at the Aid Bank, worked on plenty of projects, worked on the Layo River Hotel project that never came to into existence. So, yeah.
What about church? What your life in church was?
Church.
Catholic, Protestant?
So my family, most of them are or were Catholic. I do have two pastors in the family. Jules Pascal, he's my aunt's husband. I think they have their own church in Granford, and Bishop Prince, Chad Prince, that's my uncle. So anyone who knows that, they would know who he is. And so, yeah, it's for a long time I didn't go to church. I don't believe I was 15 before I stopped going to a Catholic church. And then I started going to a gospel mission while I was at school. Then I didn't go again until I came to the United States. I started going back to church again. And quite frankly, since COVID, I haven't really gone to a physical church. I just, all the churches around me, let's just say they're not my speed or my drive. But I still believe in the Almighty. I still believe in the Creator. I read the Word almost every day. I try to anyway. Don't read it as much as I should, but I still believe the Word of God. I still believe the Word is the Word of our Creator, our Heavenly Father. So I like I said, they call it in the US, they have a term, they say a church home. So I don't have a church home, but I do believe. I believe in, spirituality, essentially. I don't so much believe in religion. Actually, I don't believe in religion, because I think it's one of the problems we are dealing with in the world is, because of religion. I think it takes away, if you focus on religion, it takes away what is truly important. And that is to love your neighbor as yourself. I hope that answers your question.
That is a hard one. That one is a hard one. Religion removes that focus of wanting you to understand, love your neighbor as yourself. That's a hard one to understand.
That's my opinion. That's how I see it. And it's because I say that because, if you look around the world, you see what's happening. especially these days, you can't have a difference of opinion with someone else, in some cases, for them not to hate you or for them not to, treat you as the enemy. And I think that if we focus less on that, obviously that's not the only cause. I'm just saying it's one of the causes, um, at least in my opinion, and I think if we focus less on which religion is correct or which religion will lead you to heaven or hell, if you believe in any of those things, if we focus on that, I think it takes away what is really important. And like I said, love your neighbor as yourself. And if you don't believe in any of that stuff, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. I don't judge you or whatever. Everyone is entitled to believe whatever they want to believe.
That's true.
I don't think it defines us. I believe what defines you is how you treat people and how you behave as an individual. And I don't subscribe to the idea that if your parents grew up or raised you up in a particular religion or following a particular religion, that you must follow that religion.
Okay.
I don't subscribe to that.
Okay.
I never have. I always think that every individual, once they are an adult, has the right to make their own choices. And whatever those choices are, I believe we have this thing called free will, which means whatever you do, it's on you. Whatever the consequences are, it's on you. But that's like I said, that's just me. How other people want to believe or choose to live their lives,
That's them.
has nothing to do with me. I don't judge you because of it. I may not like what you do, but it's still on you. It is still you. You are still the person who has to deal with whatever the results are.
62 people are looking on. Corina Amantradin said, good evening to you all. James Bell said, Jesus built his church. And he said, read it in Matthew 16:18 and Romans 16:16. Beno Pascal said that he's watching. Lakou Joseph is watching. Leon Lando is watching. And Malin Claudia Loblac is also watching. And Giselle Ismail. This is it, brother, proud sister. That's someone that you know.
Yes, thanks, sis. Thank you, sis. And Pedro Pascal, also a relative. And so, Jesus did build his church, but his church was not called whatever you want to call a religion. No, there was no religion. As a matter of fact, the word Christian is only mentioned in the book of Acts once. And it was when the disciples went to a place called Antioch. Basically, to put it in layman's terms, they said, here comes the followers of Jesus Christ. Call them, and they called the word Christian came about because of because they are following Jesus Christ. That's where that word came from. You can look that up. So correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Yeah, so it wasn't about, Christ did never preach religion. As a matter of fact, this was one of the reasons why he was crucified, because the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the political leaders believed that he came to take away their power, or their influence, or whatever. This was one of the reasons. So, if you want to believe he was a prophet and he wasn't the Son of God, that's fine too. That's your choice. However, that's one of the reasons why he was crucified is because they believed that he came to overthrow them, essentially. They thought he was going to be a political leader who was going to subjugate them or whatever. But he preached loving your neighbor as yourself. He preached being kind to one another, being, saying that the meek will inherit the earth, and how you treat the least among you, that's how you're treating me, and so forth. He basically preached love. And what we're saying is that's what God is love. We
But
say that all the time,
you,
but I don't think we really understand what that truly means.
I suspect you can make your own church, but you speak like a pastor.
No, I'm
Roy
not
said,
called.
Martina Roy said
I'm
that
not.
she's watching from New York. And Juanita
Said that?
Jones said, Jesus built his church, but it wasn't as we think of building of wood or brick. The
That's
church
right.
is the people who gather in one belief.
That's right.
That's what you just said, basically.
Sermon on the Mount is a great
Yes.
example of that. So, I mean, yeah. And again, folks, thank you for watching. Those of you watching on TDN TV, on Facebook, I see one of our one of my customers actually ordained St. Kitts, Mr. Leroy Weeks. Thank you for tuning in. He made a comment, so that's how I see he's on there.
And Libla H.Yo says Hyacinth from Tallahassee is listening, and Curtis Grell is watching. Dorothy Bellot is said that she's also watching. So it seems that you would have hit a nerves on the whole issue of Christianity. Because the last name that I call, I know that she's a Christian. I know that she too might maybe make a comment on one or two things that you have said. But we're not here to talk about Christianity. We are here
to talk about that.
I only ask you about the fact of you going to church and what it is like, and you're able to explain to us. Now, coming to Roseau, what was the experience coming to Roseau? What your first experience coming to Roseau from Grand Fort?
Well, it's interesting because the thing is, my family, you know, the area on Virgin Lane where they call
For Michael?
Not Pong, the other one.
For Michael?
Is that what it was called? I don't
By the Catholic Church?
By the Catholic Church. We go to the Catholic Church.
For Michael.
We used to have a shack there. One of my uncles, when he was going to high school, got it, and that's where he stayed. Then when he left, and he used to be a customs officer. He retired now. But one of his sisters was living there, so I lived.
What was the name of the sister?
Her name is Marinus. She's still around. Actually, she lives in Grand Fort right now. She lived overseas for a while, but now she's back taking care of my granddad. And so that's where we lived. I sort of grew up around
Bio, Tata, these guys.
The Laytons.
Chester, okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, grew up around those guys.
Yes.
I even worked with Chester's brother once for a while. We worked for the same company, Wayne. So, I grew up around those guys. Grew up essentially because I was really a kid, when I started college, because I got my first job actually at Barclays Bank. And like I said, this is one of the reasons why I believe I am who I am, because I've never been afraid of hard work. Because my first official job, despite growing up in the garden and carrying bananas and whatever, my first official job, by the way, Social Security, pretty soon, just a few more years, they're coming for my money. My first official job was working at Barclays Bank, cleaning the part-time, cleaning the doors when the bank closed, the doors and the windows. And it was a job a cousin of mine had. And every time he couldn't make it, he'd call me to fill in for him. Then eventually he got tired of the job, and I think he either became, I don't believe it was a police officer, but I believe he started working in security, because that job he had outgrown it. And so I think that was one of the things that helped me through school. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, I think growing up in Roseau was interesting. I also hung around those guys at Wadikole, and so forth, because I was always interested in music, and I can't play an instrument or sing to save my life, but I've always been interested in music, interested in DJing and so forth. I did that for a little while. In fact, let me go back a little bit to growing up in Grand Fort. Since I was maybe 12 years old, I used to be in Carnival. Right in Carnival, right up and down, because my uncle, his actual DJ name is Disco Doc. His name is Oliver George, but they call him Disco Doc. And when he came back from England, he brought, a bunch of music, turntables, tons and tons, hundreds of records, vinyl records, and and so forth. And he actually revived Grand Forks Carnival for a little while, because I think for maybe like 10 years, Grand Forks didn't really have carnival. We used to have like Lakou Cabaret, but after a while that kind of died out, especially when hi-fi began to influence Dominica's carnival. And then when Disco Dog began running carnival, little boy, I'm in there. So, just to bring that little tidbit that I forgot to mention. So, like I said, I had a very interesting life growing up in the village. It was fun, learned a lot. And Uncle Oliver was one of my big influences. He got me interested in electricals and electronics and so forth.
Before you continue, just want to say to you that some 62 people are still looking on. I can also tell you that I know that you love cricket. The win one, St. Lucia playing against Guyana in the T20. The scores 54-4. We just saw Hetmeyer got out, and it's now 54-4 with the Amazon Warriors. Guyana Amazon Warriors batting, and the Kings, St. Lucia Kings, are actually filling. So 54-4. Now, let's. I should also say that Rosanna Roy says pleasant good evening. Also, Frederica Jim said that she's watching. Frank Moise said that he's watching and is locked in from St. Martin. Rosanna says that she's watching from Fortney, and Fern Alickman said that she's watching from Connecticut in the United States of America. Let's go back to your job that you were cleaning windows at the Barclays Bank. Let's go back to that. Give us that walkthrough.
Yeah, before I go, actually, let me say good evening to the folks who are watching again. Fern, good night. And of course, good evening to the Mr. Derek Mann, one of my business partners, if you will. I hope we get to talk about some of the work we do over here as well. And,
we will be doing that.
Man's audio visual productions and so forth. So yeah, at the Barclays Bank, it was not, I mean, guys like Brian Francis were around at that time. And I forgot the other gentleman. I believe his name was Jim. He lived right next to the bank. I think Elsa Rui Proctor was there as well, and quite a few other folks. And it was a pretty simple job, just before the bank closes, I would go in there and clean clean the windows and the doors from, fingerprints of people going in and out, and all the counters. They had those glass planes where the tellers worked. In front of the teller, so I had to clean all of that, clean off people's prints and the dirt and so forth. And I think vacuum upstairs. We had to go upstairs, vacuum the carpet and that kind of thing, and so off, and pick up the trash from each of the offices and put them in the main big trash out behind in the back of the bank. And it was a pretty fun job, I mean, the other thing too is for me, that was, I think that was like a job I was proud of. I working in the bank. I'm not a teller or anything like that, but it was fun and interesting, and it taught me that you don't have to have a great job or great name to yourself to do something, and you can't sit back and just wait for somebody to hand you something. You got to put in some work as well.
And putting in that work at the Barclays Bank, what was the pay like? You don't have to tell us what the figures was like, but what was the pay like?
I don't not remember, but I believe it might have been a little more than $100, maybe less than $100 a week, maybe less, but I don't remember. But like I said, for me at the time, I was pretty satisfied. I say I want to believe. I don't think I had an issue with the pay. Maybe I didn't even really understand, you know, the scale or what that really meant. But I believe I was satisfied with that pay, at least at that time.
Around what time was
And
that? What year was that around?
that would be maybe around 1990. I think I probably did that job for 2 years, 1990 to 1991, I think it was. Um, the other thing is I spent a lot of time at the Rosa Library um, with folks like Nicole Judges, who worked at DBS, and we've been friends for since that time, over, Kevin Carter and so forth. We spent quite a bit of time at the library. This is where we went to do homework and study and that kind of thing. And so, um, yeah, it's kind of hard recalling some of these things because it's been so long. Kevin, a guy I haven't seen since our CDCC days. I haven't seen this guy in all this time. And
Kevin what?
his name was Kevin Carter. So I don't know where he is. I haven't seen or heard him since we left school. This guy knew him very well. John Karam, because John was a teacher at the college at the time as well. So we also hung out at John's house around that time. So it's just, and a lot of the folks that I went there with, they sort of, went overseas, and I haven't seen them in ages. Lyndon Johnson was one of the.
During all of that time, Sam, did you had a love for writing?
Wow.
At what time? At what time of your life you just fell in love with writing?
Primary school. I don't remember exactly what age, but I have always loved reading. My dad's father, my granddad had lots and lots of books, and that was about the only thing he would allow me to touch. He was very particular, but he let me read his books. He had a nice little bookshelf full of books. I read almost every book I could find, and some of those books I actually now have them in my bookshelf, the ones I could remember anyway. And when I think it was after Hurricane Allen, one of the things my dad did was he built a hurricane shelter below the house, beneath the house. So he dug up, salt in the back, and used stone, because my dad was a stonemason, and he used stones and built a nice hurricane shelter there. And after my granddad passed, I had taken some of those books, put them in a box, and left them in there. And unfortunately, the place got flooded once, and a lot of those books got destroyed. I used to have composition books full of short stories. All of these got destroyed in that hurricane shelter, or they got mildew and that kind of thing. One of the regrets I have, I never took those and preserved them. But now here we are. We have the technology to help us preserve some of our new stories. So.
It seems that your mom is watching, and she said that she's so proud of you. I'm proud of you, my son, Susan George.
Yeah, she texted me already and said that she.
And Al Benoit says that he's watching. Teresa Frigis said that she's watching and listening. And she said good night. Jennifer Astafans also said that she's watching. So yes, you're talking about your books and your writing. And you said from primary school that you fell in love with writing. What was your first?
Yeah.
What was your first set of things thoughts that you put on paper?
Well, one of the things I remember we used to do when we came back from summer vacation, our English teacher might have been either I don't remember whether it was Mr. Lockhart or Mr. Matthew. That would be Clifford Matthew. His mom just turned 100 last week. That's 15, Miss Pascal or Mrs. Pascal. And one of them, or every teacher I had actually, we always had to write a story about how we spent our summer vacation, or we had to write a Lost in the Woods story. It was just routine. You had to expect that when you come back to school, you have to write a story about how you spend your summer. So I think those were the two of the main topics that we always had, or we would choose from. Sometimes we got to basically tell a story or write it, and then you have to read it in front of class. So yeah, but in addition to that, I would take my own composition book and just write a story. I don't know if at the time it made sense or not, but I remember one of my teachers, I don't know which one, I don't remember which one, it might have been Teacher Harty, told me that, or actually it might have been the principal of Granford School at the time, told me I should continue writing. And that was Magnus Williams. I believe he was from either River Syriac or La Plain or one of these places. And, at the time I thought, they're just telling me that it's not something I take seriously. I just like doing it, And so I didn't write for a very long time. Although I will say that after college, I did write a few letters to the editor in New Chronicle and the Tropical Star. I don't exactly remember what the topics were, but I do remember that. And obviously a concerned citizen, my name wasn't on it. So if you go look for it, you won't find it. But yeah, so I've always had, an affinity to write, and it quite, to be honest, it wasn't until around 2014, maybe earlier, Nicole Georges, she had an idea for a radio drama series called Redemption Road. And
I remember that we played it on a Sunday night on DBS.
You guys carried it a few times. Yeah. Yes, carried a couple of the seasons. The other 3 seasons still there, for DBS to carry.
Nicole hasn't gotten in touch with me yet on that.
So that's when I began to pick up writing again on a serious note. And after we finished those 5 seasons, well, by the time we finished those 5 seasons, I had joined a writing group, and so here we are. And it's just been an interesting journey, I must say, and it's been a fun journey. So now our writing group is called Piton Noir. It's actually it's a tribute to our Montois Piton in Dominica, and we write sci-fi, fantasy, folklore. Right now we have 3 books out under our anthology called The Flying Crackle, and we just published the 3rd one. Looks like this. So, maybe I'll get a chance to tell you how to get it a little bit later on. So I'll send it back to you.
Also, before you continue, Anne Pemberton says, blessing coming from the UK. Susan George, she said, hi, nephew, this is your aunt, Toto. Proud of you.
Oh, that's Marinese, Auntie Marinese.
Yes. Vince, the go-getter, he said, good night. He asked, who is he? Well, he just said that is Sam George from Granford. And Lee Lander said that she's watching. Vince, the go-getter, just came in, still curious. I am still been following, so you maybe have to tell the go-getter again who you are. Maybe go-getter might be from Granford, trying to get to place you together. so that he can have a better understanding, because he
Yeah.
asked twice.
If he's a younger person, he probably would not remember me.
Shari Diz said that you are her family.
Who?
Shari.
Oh, Shari de Monet. Yes,
Yes.
that's my cousin. That's my cousin's daughter, actually. Her grandma is my aunt.
Okay.
So yeah, we quite a few folks. Let's see. Dale Charlemagne, he's actually works with us on one of our programs on TDN. He wanted to know where my wife is from, and growing up, who did I idolize? He texted me directly. So my wife is actually from Mariga, and who did I idolize? I think I mentioned that already. My uncle, Oliver, I think he was one of the biggest influences in my life, besides my father. Because my dad was, like I said, he was a farmer, he was a builder, a stonemason. And so he taught me, basically my father taught me how to use a hammer and a saw, and Uncle Oliver taught me about electronics and electricals. And so, yeah, I think those were the people. And, like I said, I have an uncle, my mom's brother, who was a custom officer. So I think all of the people around me sort of influenced me, or the people around me, the things around me, influence how I, especially how I write and how I think these days. Now, I think, I kind of think back on those times, yeah. I have, one of the things that I'm most proud of too is my son, my younger son. He's in college, right? He's in university right now, and he's he's a good writer. I think he's actually a better writer than I am, and he has 2 contributions to the Flying Crapple, the first book and the third book. His name is Tyler. So yeah, he's an avid reader and as well. So I guessing he picked that up from me, because a lot of times they say your children do not pick up what you say, or they do what they see you do. So I think that is the biggest influence on our children. So.
So let me go to the telephone first before I actually ask you my next question. Let's go to the telephone. Good evening to you, caller. You're live.
Good night. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir.
Sorry to disturb you, Mr. Cecil.
That's okay.
I want to know if it's... Huh?
Go ahead.
I said, sorry to disturb you. The cricket score I want to get between
Okay.
the final that playing there, please. I've got season. I want to get the score, please.
Okay.
Don't mind giving me the score, please.
Okay, it is 77 for 5 in 14.2 overs.
Who back in?
Guyana Warriors, the Amazon Warriors of Guyana batting.
Yeah.
All right?
How was the score you said?
77 for 5 in 14.2 overs. All right?
Thank you very much, Mr. Cecil. Sorry to disturb your program.
All right, then. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that, George. Some persons, a number of persons, Thompson, St. Rose, say, what is the end of the end game? I'm not so sure what he means by this. Vince, the go-getter, said, I am not from Granford. I'm just following the program. I just been curious. All right, so I understand. The go-getter. No. Sam, you have decided that you are going to do, or you're going to focus quite a lot on writing. You did not go through high school. You went to the Clifton Dupini and you did skills. Your uncle played an influential part in your life, and you decided that you're going to do electronics. Engineering? Is correct to say?
Yeah.
And you got a job at the Backless Bank cleaning glasses. How did you come to that juncture when you decided that I'm going to do writing? How did you, although you said while at school, the principal of the Granford Primary School told you that he thinks that you're a good writer, but how did you come down to deciding that is writing you wanted to do? What did the yard do to influence you about this?
Well, as I said, I always read a lot, and my grandfather all had tons of books, and even grandfather used to have a public library. Couple times I believe couple times the church ran it, the Catholic Church ran the library. Then someone else, a private citizen, took it over and ran that for a little while, and so it was kind of an up and down. But we could still get books. That was when I growing up as a kid. But in everything else that I always did, which is whether that would be playing or working in the field or going garden or whatever, I always found time to read. And when we were growing up, I used to hear folks say, well, reading is fundamental. And I always took that to heart. And I still believe reading is fundamental. If you don't read, you can't really do anything else. You can't really understand life, because a lot of the things that you learn is in books, or are in books, and now maybe electronically. But back then we had books, and so this is what we had to do. So I've always been fascinated with writing. And even if I didn't do it for a long time, maybe about 20 years, I didn't write anything. When the opportunity came, especially Nicole, when she said, Sam, you can do this. And I wrote my first few lines of the script of Redemption Road, just to go back to that. And she read it, and she was like, and knowing Nicole's background in terms of, her history, working with media in Dominica and her journalism background. And once she said, this is good, keep going, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep going. And so here we are today. Here I am, 3 books with my group and 1 solo book. And I actually have another writing group that we are working on another project. So, it's just, like I said, it's been interesting. And then what also drives me now is seeing I have a son who can also do that. He's not really keen on it. He's focused on school and other things, but I try to encourage him to keep writing. And so we'll see where that goes. But he doesn't have to. He'll set his own path, essentially. One of the things I will say, growing up, my parents never forced us to do things we didn't want to do. They never said, you have to do this, or this is what you have to do. They let us cut our own path, so we realize our own dreams. And I think I kind of afford my son to do the same, to choose his own path.
But Sam, I find that you're a very interesting person, very well-rounded individual, to be honest with you. Because later on, people are going to understand why I said so. I really would like to find out how much of an influence did the Grand Four Yard, the Grand Four community, helped you in being multi-skilled?
I think everything. Because as I said, you grow up in a village like this, everyone is around and everyone is doing different things. And like I said, Uncle Oliver, he came back from England with multiple skills. And even in at Clifton, Mr. Pascal always used to say, you don't have to limit yourself to just one thing. You can do different things, because sometimes, a lot of times you go to school for a specific degree or a specific skill, and then you don't wind up doing that at all. You wind up doing something different. So it's okay to learn different things. It's okay to, if you're interested in them. And, so I believe growing up in Grand Four, it had a heavy influence on me doing it, being interested in different things, because I remember I read somewhere one time that people are not one thing. You know, you are not, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, that's not who you are. You know, that's your occupation, or that may be your training. But, you know, people can be more than one thing. So I don't believe that we have to limit ourselves. I mean, I guess some circumstances may limit us, but at the same time, and especially these days, um, even after leaving Clifton DP, I never stopped learning. I never stopped finding ways to educate myself, and to brush up on my or keep up with my whatever field I'm working in at the time. I never stopped. We have a couple of bookshelves. One of them still has electrical books or books on electronics, books on programming, and so on. So it's not always the thing you went to school to do. It's what makes you happy sometimes. It's what makes you happy. Derek says, thanks, Derek. Someone said that's Patricia Fountain said on all Granford people she know just like to read. So there you have it. Yeah. So
And also Vince, the go-getter, said that don't limit yourself. That's great advice, Doc.
yeah, I believe that. I believe we don't have to limit ourselves. It might be great to have a huge title. It might be great to have a PhD. It might be great to have a doctor in front of your name. But that still doesn't mean you have to stop there. You keep going. As far as I'm concerned, as long as you are alive, you can keep going. You can keep learning, or you should keep learning. You should keep reading. You should keep pushing. And I think those are just some of the most important things in life.
So
It's not. Mhm.
So let me ask you, what caused you now, even if you felt satisfied with that $100 a week at the Backless Bank, what caused you to determine that you should now leave Dominica and go somewhere else?
Well, one, it was work, I suppose. Work had sort of become mundane, and I wanted to do something else. Like I said, at the time, I did different projects. I did what do you call it? I did electricals, and then my wife was in the United States, so I wanted to be here. So yeah, I think those are the two main reasons: economic and love, if you will. So this was the person I decided that I wanted to get married to, and so here we are, uh, uh, more than 20 years later. So I needed to do something else. I always wanted to travel. I wanted to, um, work with tile engineering as well. So it was, sometimes.
Before you go into that, sometimes, let me just read something quickly. Henry Pascal. He said, George, being from Granford, myself, I'm very proud of you, and I'm not sure if we are related, but I am certainly would like to wish you the best, the very best for the future. I listen to the program every Sunday evening. Great program, Mr. Joseph. So he says that Henry Pascal said he's not so sure if you are his family, but he is enjoying the program tonight.
Well, I'm not sure, but if he's, I mean, I know Henry Pascal. Like I said, I grew up around all of these folks. But my grandmother was a Pascal, so we were probably somewhere related back there. That's my father's mother. So we probably will. We probably are related in some way anyway. But yeah, so thank you. Thank you.
So though you're talking about you live in Dominica, deciding to go to the United States, you're giving reasons why you left to go to the United States.
I'd say opportunity would be the better word to use, opportunity. And like I said, I wanted to marry the woman I loved. And so here we are. And well, what I was going to say sometimes sometimes you just need a change. You know, you just being in the same place. Sometimes it's just necessary, and it's not true for everybody. It's not true for everyone. And the thing is, to a lot of the folks that I went to school with had left long before me. As soon as school, they left. Some went to universities. So you know, I remained, stayed back and worked, and then eventually it was time to move on. So, you know, and it's been interesting. You know, the opportunities are much different. I mean, now I run my own business along with my friend. Well, he's more than a friend; he's more like a brother. Known him for over 30 years. That's Mr. Anthony Drago. And so we run this business together, and we've been, you know, providing services that we even have that DBS could use. But we'll come to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Vernanda Coffee said that, hello, L. We are proud of you in Grand Fort. He is my brother's brother niece. Seeing you good night. I am listening.
Yeah, that's my older brother. That's his sister.
Okay.
My brother.
Yes. Yeah. No. So you are now in the United States, and you're doing what?
Well, I own a business called G and D Enterprises. It kind of be a tongue twister sometimes. It stands for George and Drago, where we provide various services, software development. We build apps for radio stations and TV stations. We provide hosting services, and we design websites and host them as well. We do procurement. So if you are in Dominica, for example, and you need something that's you can't necessarily buy directly, we can track it down for you. We can and then have it shipped to you. As you know, it's not easy getting things shipped to Dominica. So one of our newest services is book design. So if you have a book that you've written or want to write or want to publish, we got you on that. We can help you with that as well. And we also provide streaming services. A lot of the streaming services we provide, we do that along with Man's Audio Visual Productions. And especially in the tri-state area, if you have to broadcast something live, we do that, which is one of the ways we've collaborated with DBS. And we do that over TDN Network, which runs TDN Radio and TDN TV, where some of you are watching right now. So we do quite a few things. Sometimes I don't even remember all of the services we provide, but we definitely work that. So I run the day-to-day, essentially. We have, we develop WordPress plugins. One of our major plugins is used by radio stations and TV stations all around the world. They use that to manage their daily schedules, and, which helps inform listeners who is on and who is coming up next and that kind of thing. So, you know, and we on TDN Network, we have several programs. One of them, This Week in Interview, we do that every Wednesday, hosted by Mr. Drago. We have a program that we run between the fall and the spring called Dissect, where we have a young man in Dominica, Dale Charlemagne, who is one of our producers, and And so, like everything we do, it seems it always comes back to Dominica, even if we are not necessarily there. So we partner with people in Dominica and so on. So we try to continue supporting the country, even if we are outside, we still love our country, we still love the place of our birth, and we do what we can to support in a positive way, contribute in a positive way.
That is amazing, especially when I have to look back at the things that you have done and the things that you have planned for the future. I want you to really help us to have a greater understanding of your development since arriving in the United States.
Wow. Let's just say, I'm a much different person than I used to be growing up, or I even was as a younger person. I used to be impatient for words, and I think this is one of the places I saw growth in myself. I never used to be a patient person, rash, harsh sometimes. So, and that might have been because of my son Tyler. We have an older boy. He's my stepson, but for all intents and purposes, he's my son. So he's much older than the younger one, and so you have to decide how you go. And like I said, your children do not do the things you tell them to do. In most cases, they do the things they see you do. So, just as I said, where I grew up in a home where we didn't have things like sibling rivalry and we didn't fight each other, I remember only one incident where I got mad at my sister and yelled at her, and it's because I had cut my foot with a cutlass, and she wasn't listening, and she heard it. I don't know if she remembers that incident. So that was the only time I remember. I mean, maybe we got into other disagreements, but I don't remember it being severe, things like that. And so we just cooperated, if you will. Like I said, we weren't perfect, but we did get along, and so I didn't want to have a home where we're always fighting and things are, like I said, we aren't perfect people, but at the same time, we can strive to get along and strive to do whatever it is we need to do to, this day, I have no worries. My sons are out there because I know they are going to follow their training in terms of how they were brought up. They're not going to be the ones creating problems or looking for problems. And, at least I hope they never get, I mean, you never know, things can happen. But at the same time, I have confidence in them that they would always make the right choices. And that's all you can really do. You can only pray and hope for the best.
I know that, Sam, that we both had a conversation book and book services. You were impressed with what you saw that I wrote, and you wanted me to put together a book. I'm sure that there are many other people who are out there themselves who would want to know about your book design and the services that you give. So you can help.
And this is a service we started practically earlier this year, and we've published several books for a few different clients, and I believe they are doing well. I would hope so. And so if you go to our website, G&D-enterprisesinc.com, you'll find links to so many of the services we provide. Book design, it simply means we create the layout for the book in collaboration with the author. We help you put the cover together. If you don't have a cover, we can design the cover as well. Um, um, we help you create your what is known as KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, Amazon. So we help you create that account. We help you to get your book published, and then it's off to the races. It's up to you to get your book sales going. But we at least give you the tools you need to, we'll even teach you how to use your KDP account, which some we help publish Alex Bruno, who worked once was DBS employee as well. Professor Bruno, I should say. we help publish his first book, which is called I forget the title now, but his book on Miss Charles, which was essentially an interview that he turned into a manuscript. We helped him publish that. And a few other Dominicans as well, we've helped publish their work, and non-Dominicans as well. So services are open and ready for all. Don't have any particular people that we are targeting, he said, essentially. So
now, Sam, I want to go to another angle. But before I do that, I want to say that Glenda Figan is watching. Alvin Thomas said that great work, my friend. Sam, really proud of you. And Drago, Dominicans are doing great things in the US. Davina John Baptist said that she's watching, and she said good night. Anthony Drago says that he's watching. Now, Sam, we have seen the world is changing drastically into artificial intelligence. Where are you, Sam George, on the issue of artificial intelligence?
AI, first of all, good night, Alvin. Good night, bro. Anthony, good night to you and everyone else. Again, if you're just joining us, thank you for locking in. Appreciate you guys' support. Me on AI, I think that artificial intelligence, AI, is the wave of the future, essentially. Not in all aspects, not in everything, but I believe AI within the next 5-10 years will play a much larger role in our lives than it is even right now. And I'm all for it. I mean, I love tech, so for one thing. And other than that, even if I wasn't in tech, I believe I would still be interested in artificial intelligence. I mean, I spend a lot of time either using or working on software. So, let me say this. I know a lot of folks are either frightened by AI or either concerned or not sure. I don't, and that's my opinion, by the way. I don't think at this point there is anything for us to worry about. Maybe AI will take some jobs, but it will also create new jobs and new opportunities. And that is the cycle of life. That is how the world works. First of all, the study and development of artificial intelligence has been around since the 1950s, right? And I don't think it has displaced that many people. It's only now that the general public is getting the opportunity to use AI itself, and maybe get to understand it a little bit better. And maybe somewhere out there, they have some system that can ruin us all. But I don't know that for a fact, so I can't focus on that. I like to focus on the things that I can understand, or the things that will help us. I am not a person who, I don't like to focus on the things that I do not have, or the things that I don't, I like focusing on more on what I can get to, rather than, the negative things of life. A lot of times as human beings, we like to focus on the things we do not have. We like to focus on where we are not, rather than focusing on the things we do have and, the places we can get to. I just think that we have to try. We can't just sit back and say, well, I don't have this or that or the other, and therefore I give up. As long as you have life, I think there's always something you can do. And I don't feel if we should be afraid of, of AI, to answer your question. I don't think we should be afraid of it. I think we should try to work with it. And it's a tool, much like a hammer, much like a chisel or a chainsaw, whatever it is. I think AI is a tool, and there are two ways to use it. You can either use it for good and positive things, or you can use it for evil. And it's always up to the individual who has access to it. And like computers, like the internet, there will always be people who will attempt to use those tools to create problems, or for whatever reason, whether it's for them to pattern their own pockets, or whether it's just to create chaos. There'll always be these kinds of people. But at the same time, we can't use that as an excuse to stem progress, or like I said, there are plenty of uses for artificial intelligence or AI software, and it's up to each of us. And by the way, I think that the Caribbean should try to find a way to integrate AI or get in on the AI bubble, if you will, we have right now. Because we missed the dot-com bubble, if you will. Lots of countries got rich, lots of individuals got rich during the 90s, during the dot-com bubble, and the Caribbean missed it. And I'm hoping that this time around, we have some people who are, who are working in the AI field, who are working in the IT field, who see the need, and our leaders, I hope they take the opportunity, bring in people who can do this kind of work, who have the skills and the education, if you will, as well, to integrate AI into Caribbean life, not just Dominica, but the whole Caribbean.
So how much are you involved in developing that software?
I am a user of AI. Well, so like I said, GN Enterprises, we have some software, we have some plugins that for WordPress websites and so forth that we do. We do use AI, or developers use AI in terms of not to develop our code, but to look over it, to troubleshoot it. And that has been extremely helpful, because any software developer will tell you one of the most frustrating things is when you develop a piece of code and it works today, and then the next day you come and it's not working, or it's not following the function it is supposed to. It's not providing the result it is supposed to provide, and then you got to go look through the code to find what the problem is. Sometimes it's almost impossible. Well, it's difficult to find it. Sometimes it's a period out of place, or a semicolon out of place, or whatever the case may be. But with the help of some AI tools, we are able to cut down our troubleshooting time by almost half, because the AI can find issues in the code that it would take human eyes much longer to find. And I think that helps with efficiency and turnaround. Get your updates out there much quicker. So AI has its uses. As a matter of fact, I have an article that I wrote a couple months ago on TDN Radio's website. You all should read it. Just go to tdnradio.net and look for an article called "My Conversation with an AI Model." I won't get into it right now because it's kind of long, but I think it would be a good read for anyone who is interested in in this topic.
You can summarize it. You can summarize it for us.
Essentially, so when Meta released their latest model back in August, I decided I was going to have a conversation with the AI. And so much like you and I having a conversation, it's not voice, it's just text back and forth. So basically I started the conversation by asking the AI a few questions, and the answers, it seemed like I was talking to another human being. Obviously, those are the answers the AI was trained to give, based on the question. Whoever trained it said, well, if someone asks this question, then this is the way to respond. But it's a computer, so it doesn't have any emotions. All it does is it just repeats the facts that it has been given. And so one of the questions I asked the AI is this: whether human beings should be afraid of AI. And it responded by saying, while AI has made tremendous progress, humans should not be scared of AI. Itself, however, it's natural to have concerns and uncertainties when facing significant technological advancements. And this is fundamentally true. People who, for example, work in manufacturing in the United States will tell you that when machines were introduced into manufacturing, like auto workers or many manufacturers introduced machines, people thought, well, all manufacturing jobs were going to go away. That didn't happen. Obviously, some jobs became obsolete. A few folks lost their jobs, but new jobs were created, new opportunities were created at the same time. So I think this is always the cycle. Whenever technology improves, some people may lose their jobs, yes, and it's unfortunate, but I think it's just part of life. I remember when computers were beginning as well to become mainstream, there were people who refused to learn computers or refused to learn to use this new tool because they old school, or it's how they grew up, or they think they're too old. No one is too old. You're never too old to learn new things. And they wouldn't. And so they lost their job. Someone else who was willing to learn got that job. So it's, as I said, it's the fear sometimes that
I'm gonna do something here. All right, something that you composed one night after a great Dominican. You gave it to AI, and listen to what AI did. And you're telling me about fears? Listen to this.
All right.
Jumping high in the Paris air. Dominic rise, we sing without a care. Gold, she grasped its strength and might. Triple jump into victory, what a sight. First gold medal, she brought it home. In the city of love, she shone and roamed. Pride and glory in every leap. A legacy of dreams she sowed so deep. Oh, see her laugh on the golden queen. Jumping for the flag with a heart so keen. Paris, skies witness the tale. Dominica shines, victories prevail. Oh, oh. From the nature isle to the world she flew. With every step her spirit grew. Olympic dreams now a truth untold. In Thea's jump we find pure soul. Her story celebrate you with songs of cheer. Feel the fall, you conquered fear. Oh, feel love on the golden queen, jumping for the flag with a heart so keen. Paris, skies witness the tale. Dominica shines, victories prevail. From the nature out to the world she flew. With every step her spirit grew. Olympic dreams now a truth untold. In Thea's jump we find pure gold. Her story written in the stars. A champion's heart that beats so far. We celebrate you with songs of cheer. Thea Lafon, you conquered fear. Oh, Thea Lafon, the golden queen, jumping for the flag with a heart so keen. Paris, skies witness the tale. Dominica shines, victories prevail. Golden moments we cherish so. Thea Lafon, forever we know. Olympic triumphs you define. Dominican pride, your light will shine. The world watched in awe as she took flight. Her boundless spirit shining ever so bright. With each graceful leap, she conquered the sky. Thea Lafon, our hero, reaching new highs. In every stride, she carried a nation's hope. With unwavering determination, she learned to cope. Through sweat and tears, she paid.
Tell me, you think that we should not be scared of AI? Tell me how this was done. Let's start a talk.
No, I don't think we should be afraid. I don't believe AI will ever truly replace a real musician or a true musician or true musicians, a band or humans playing a keyboard or humans playing a thing. As I said, in fact, the AI is not that much different from a synthesizer or a drum machine. I don't think it is. It may be that there might be a difference of opinion on that, but I don't think it's that much different. I think it's just another tool that we can use to produce music. And for someone like me, who I never learned to play an instrument, I couldn't sing to save my life, but I can write. And so if I don't have a singer or I don't have a musician, then this tool is perfect for me. And I'm glad you played the song Tribute to Thea Lafon first, because this is a perfect example of what I am talking about when I say this works perfectly for someone like me. Because imagine if I had written this down and then I had to send it to a producer, I had to send it to an artist. There's no way I would be able to get it out as quickly as I did. And it wasn't even about me per se. It was about, Dominica has just, for the first time, won a gold medal at the Olympics. And I recognize the significance of that, and I was with my wife and my son, and I was like, I have an idea, it just came to me, and she was like, basically looked at me like, what again? Because I always have an idea. And then if someone looks at my phone, my notes, on my phone, they will say, they will see the number of notes I have, or like either a short story or a poem or a song that I began writing, and then, because sometimes before I fall asleep, an idea will come to mind. I open my notes, I start writing it, and then I finish it next morning. But I believe it was Sunday. We didn't see the live, Fear's live jump, but we had looked at the
Replay.
Clips. We looked at the clips. We looked at it a couple of times. And then the idea popped in my head, write a song about this. I had no idea what the melody was going to be or who was going to sing it, but I had begun maybe just a week before we had gotten, GN Enterprises had gotten an invitation to try this AI software. And so I had begun to experiment with it. And then this idea came about, and I said, okay. So I wrote the song on my notes, and then when I got to the computer, I put it on, entered it into the software, the AI engine, and it basically told it to generate a reggae. I think that was the first thing I told it. I didn't even think about, Dominica's favorite music. I just said do a reggae because I felt like this would be that would be easier for the AI to do. As I said, I've been experimenting with it earlier, and I didn't like some of the words. I didn't like how it sounded, but I looked at the words again and I changed some of them and then got them to basically line up where as it sounds now. But I generated maybe about 5 to 6 times before I got the sound that I felt was the best at the time. Once that was done, I took it to the mastering software that I have, cleaned up the end, that kind of thing, put it through the mastering software, and then let that do its job. And then I don't even remember, I let my wife listen to it, and she was like, okay, it's good. And then I sent it to a few of my other friends. And then the next thing I know, I sent it to Derek, I sent it to Anthony and a few other people. And the next thing I know, I was actually getting a call from Matt Peltier of Q95, and he wanted to know about the song. And then later on, I got a call from Mr. G, and then they asked if they could play it and so forth. I said, yeah, sure, go ahead, And then Derek, I believe, sent it to you, Cecil.
He sent it to me the same night, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
The same night.
I didn't hear it myself.
And the same night, on August the 4th, when I received it, I played it immediately.
Derek told me that. Yeah.
I was so excited about the song and what Phil had just jumped in the day before, the third. And I was so excited about that song that I said that no one was going to beat me to it. So I got it at 20 to 35. I was actually doing a program of that nature, and I interrupted the program and played this one. It was so appropriate that I played it. So I can beat my chest and said I was the first person to have played that Golden Jump live on radio.
Yes. Well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
I had no idea. I think Derek told me about it maybe
Yes.
the next day.
Yes.
That you guys played it. And then I also was told that Kyrie, the other station, Kyrie FM and so forth. But, as I said, the song really wasn't about me. It was I just wanted to do something to celebrate VLFR's historical win, being Dominica's first gold medalist. I mean, there was no, I guess it was the right time, the right place, the right opportunity. And sometimes this is how it happens. You have to, I guess you got to be ready for it.
And what I like, though, in all of this, and I'm doing this because people need to know of our own Dominicans who are out there doing their thing for Dominica and for the rest of the world. And also, too, I know that you did something in French. You asked AI to produce something in French. You wrote it in English, and you told AI to do it in French for you. I'm going to play this one. Listen to it.
Faut pas frapper aucun garçon. nou kapa. Sosyete nou dwe fè tout plis. Pou fini ak moube a bitim sa. Nou moun kapap moun, mèm si fam nan kite ou. Kè ou kase, ou jis pa kapè la vili. Garçon ak fam, tante moke, abese men yon sou lot. Sa pa bon, pli pa bon. Kebe fok mwen la a pase. Je jouni si ke pil po yon dans. Pou li fasil de kon petou. Jis ki te moun nan la mou pa dou le. Garçon ak fam, tante moke, abese men yon sou lot. Sa pa bon, pli pa bon. Gade devan nou, gade derrière nous, gade tout côté. Mais c'est politicien qui ça ou fait, madame politicien qui ça ou ka fait. Ou ka sauver yon la vie, allez faire travail peuple là. Garçon ak femme, tante moke, abese men yon sou lot. Ça pas bon, pli pas bon. Madame célibataire, pas fait esquisse pour être avec. Garçon pas caché vérité. Si yon femme m'abise, pas monter yon bagay. Garçon ak femme, tante moke, abese men yon sou lot. Sa pa bon, pli pa bon. La lage fè mwen, pa lage fèm nan. Ou kyo bat ne pa fè. Eske de yo ap tan nou, jis fè sa ki doit love li doit la. Garçon ak femme, tante moke, abese men yon sou lot. Sa pa bon, pli pa bon. Pa lage fè mwen, pa lage sem nan. Ou kyo pat ne pa fè. Eske de yo ap tan nou, jis fè sa ki do atan voli do ta. Garçon ak fam, tante moke, abese men yon sou lot. Sa pa bon, pli pa bon. Ki tem ti ou, si yo moun frape ou li pa ou dou lè. Si fòm nan frape, li le pou ou ale. Si ou pa ka kompren, yo ak loto swa jwen ansam. Soti nan vil, li te vil la. Pa ke eskis, pa ke resonsi tou. Ou abise yon moun ou reme. Li pa mache bien, leve pi ale. Pa pou la vie, li progresye.
Great advice in this song. I must say, some real sweet advice that this one is giving you. Telling men, like women, don't take advantage on each other. If it can't work, you can best you walk out from each other. Really powerful song, Sam, this one.
Yeah, so this one I actually wrote back in 2022. It was actually inspired by the death or the alleged murders of two of our wonderful Dominican ladies by their romantic partners, allegedly, I guess. And, I guess just hearing that kind of news and knowing that it has happened in the past, and I just felt like, if you're in a relationship with a person and you all can't get along, I don't see why you should be abusive, And the song is actually, I originally wrote it in English, and then I thought, I think it sounds better if it's in Creole. So I had translated it into Haitian Creole. I just felt it would sound better as a compa. I know it might be a little bit limited and some folks may not understand, but the English translation is there. So, if you want
easy.
that, you
It
can
says,
get it.
men and women, stop domestic abuse. It's no good. The woman giving you trouble, she makes you angry. Don't beat her up. Don't abuse her. If you can't talk, go take a walk. Pray to God. Take a moment and think. Life is good. Men and women, listen to me, okay? Don't put hands on one another. That's not good. It's not good. Verse 2 says, woman, do the right things, or do the right thing. You're inviting problems. Don't raise your voices at a man. Don't call him names. You don't break his heart. Woman, don't hit no man. A man is not your child. Men and women, listen to me. Don't put your hands on one another. That's not good. It's not good. Nation, we would do everything we can. Society, we must do all more to end this nasty habit of people beating people. Even if the woman leave you, your heart is broken, you just can't take her life. What a beautiful song. Listen to this song in French. It's really appealing.
Yeah, it's, and then it goes on to say that, and when I say women do the right thing, that is not to say in any way that or blame an abuse victim. So if anyone is thinking that, it's just to say that we all have to respect one another. Obviously, no relationship is perfect. We can get into arguments, we can get into disagreements, but it should never rise to the level where it ends in murder, or it ends in something serious, where you damage your life, you destroy someone else's life. Because you're actually destroying more than your own life. You're destroying your family, your victim's family, or whomever is doing it. And Cecil, an interesting statistic, and this comes from the United Nations, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will be or have been in an abusive relationship. And that is just to me, that is too high of a statistic. It is even worse when you compare it to a country like Dominica with a small population, right? And this is data from around the world, and that is today. And that means that you and I, as we speak, know somebody, or maybe acquainted with someone, or who is or will be in such relationship. And to me, that is just extremely sad and dangerous. I mean, how do you, as further down the verse, the song says that if you're a man and you are being abused, don't be afraid to or ashamed to seek help. And one of this also takes me to one of the things that TDN Radio does is we like to look at some of the days that are observed around the world according to the United Nations, like World Rivers Day, for example, or we domestic days talking about against domestic violence. We've done plenty of programs talking about domestic violence, and I'm going to call her another name there. she's in our group chat, and she's one of our writers, and she's done tremendous work and still does. And that's Mrs. Delia Coffee Wicks. And so we've had her on our programs multiple times. We've had people like Tina Alexander discussing. We've had not just Dominica. We've spoke with a group out there in St. Martin. I believe her name is Nkosazana. She runs one of those groups out there who fights domestic violence, and all because her sister was a victim of her brother-in-law. And so, so we take this very seriously. So we try to do what we can.
And that is why I believe that say what you want, but AI is dangerous, and that is, and I really want to prove that for myself. And I said, Sam, I have written a number of poems. I'm going to send for you 5 of them, and choose one and create a song for me. And when I got this, listen to this.
Just thinking of the dawn makes my body quiver. Why aren't you here to shine your light on me? I hear no sound if it's not your melody. When darkness comes, I call out to you. Sad to say, there's no answer, 'cause you're not here with me. Just give me one night, a night to talk, a night to touch, a night to love, a night to let you know that I'm here for you. The nights are cold as the winds blow, constant clotting blows, causing me each time to utter a kissing cry. The wall is my lover, the bed my company, the darkness envelops me, taking up no space. Just give me one night, a night to talk, a night to touch, a night to love, a night to let you know that I'm here for you. The nights are cold as a whisper, fluttering my life in so many directions. I receive constant flight blows, 'cause I need just one night to hear the sweet tone of your voice. One night so we can explore, breaking the bricks of emotion. I need to get rid of this darkness, those lonely nights, forcing me to feel the empty air. If your name is love, then give me that one night, a moment to feel your love over and over again. Just give me one night, a night to talk, a night to touch, a night to love, a night to let you know that I'm here for you. Your presence must fill this place. Now your absence makes it feel so empty. Please shelter me under your love and make our home home again. Just give me one night, a night to talk, a night to touch, a night to love, a night to let you know that I'm here for you.
So tell me how you can say that AI isn't a threat to producers, to people who are involved in the entertainment business. How are you saying that? I mean, here it is. I wrote a poem, a few poems. I gave you one, and you took one out of the five, and you got AI to give you a song out of this. And from all walks, people have discussed with, they said that it's a very good piece of work put together.
Well, I mean, first of all, the AI can write a song itself. I mean, it can string words together, yes, but there will never be a soul to that song or a true deep understanding of it. So that's one thing. So I don't think writers have to be afraid. So, first of all. Secondly, it's just like, when, again, I mentioned that earlier, when synthesizers began to come into the music industry, people thought, well, drum machines, for example, would replace drummers. It's been what? How many years since the drum machine entered the music industry, in Dominica at least? How many drummers were replaced by a drum machine?
Still have drummers.
I look at it the same way. As I said, to me, it's just a tool, and my partner Dale says that like AI is actually changing jobs, not taking jobs, in his opinion. And would it be easier to create an artist, singer's job, so he's just saying that, but maybe, and I certainly don't want everything I write to be sung, at least by AI. I mean, I have some of the things that I have written that I have given to artists, and hopefully they are working on it as promised. But at the same time, if I have something that I want to put out there and I want to put it out quickly, I can use the AI to produce it if that's what I want to do, if that's what I feel like. As a matter of fact, we have about 5 or 6 songs out there that are on Spotify and some of the other digital stores that you can go listen to and check them out. So, I don't believe that it is a threat. I think it would, in some cases, enhance what we are already doing. I have seen that in terms of how we work as a business, and it will also enhance. It may replace some jobs, but I think Dale is actually right. It will change some jobs, but I don't see it as a threat in terms of the economy. I believe it will build a new economy. In fact, Cecil, as a matter of fact, let me go back to the article I was talking about earlier. One of the points I was making in the article, somewhere towards the bottom, is that that in agriculture, for example, AI-powered farming equipment could offer Caribbean farmers, potential to maximize their crop yields, improve resource management and adapt to climate change. As you know, this is one of the things that we are concerned about. As a matter of fact, AI in agriculture, in the agriculture market, is projected to reach $4.7 billion. That's billion with a B by 2028. That is not that's not very far away, right? 2024 is practically done, right? So that's essentially 3 years away, right? So that is over 100% increase, right? And that's according to Forbes magazine. I'm not making it up, and this is projection by economists and so forth. So AI is going to be, or projected to be, a big part of the economy, or the world's economy, or the world's larger economies going forward. So now, in fact, American farming equipment manufacturer John Deere is in the process of developing AI-driven tools, which is meant to enhance efficiency, reduce waste for farmers and so forth, and also give farmers more time, where you can program your harvester to go harvest whichever crop requires that, while you go do something else, and therefore you spend less time in the field because you don't have to go from sun up to sundown because you have so much to do. Something else can do it. That may reduce your cost, and you may have to have less requirement, at least for large farmers. But that will also give you the chance or the opportunity to increase your profit from farming. Again, a John Deere tractor may not be feasible or may not work on a Caribbean farm, but I'm pretty sure there are other things and that we could use AI to enhance. And maybe, who knows, maybe we can, in the Caribbean, can develop our own companies who work in AI and provide that kind of service or those kinds of products and tools that our farmers can use. And we are in the middle of the hurricane zone, especially Dominica. AI can help with disaster preparedness, given our vulnerability to hurricanes, especially, and so forth. So we have to find the opportunities, and we have to find the areas that we fit in, based on who we are, essentially, based on our culture, based on our terrain, based on, and as I said, everything may not work for us in the Caribbean. Everything may not make sense for us, but I am pretty sure that there are things we can find.
So let me ask you,
Sam.
How much did Clifton Dupini College prepare you for that world?
I don't know. If Mr. Bruni was alive, maybe I would ask him. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think that a lot of times you draw back on where you came from, and it may not even have anything to do with school. It may just be the people you grew up around. Because the thing is, a lot of people who've made products that we use these days, who have made products that we love, or we almost can't do without. Some of them either didn't finish college, or but they had an idea and they had the financing, you know, they had the skills, whatever it was, to develop some of these products, and we are using some of them today, including right now. So it's not necessarily always about school, but I think sometimes it's about the imagination.
Maybe the sec that you built, the truck that you built, riding the sec that you had in Grand Four helped in also building your mind
Yeah.
and your resilience.
Yeah, developing the mind and imagination is important, because I think that without imagination, we really cannot do and create anything. Because I think this is where creativity comes from. And if you have imagination and creativity and you want to build something, then you go find the knowledge to build that thing, whatever it is. As human beings, I mean, we are the only species on this planet who can or has the ability to think critically and doesn't move by solely on instinct. An animal, a goat, for example, would just do what goats do. They can't think. They can't write a symphony. They can't write a song. They're just gonna do what a goat does. But a human being, we can think critically, at least when we make up our minds to. And we can develop something, we can get an idea, even if we don't have the technical know-how to create whatever it is we want to create or we imagine. We probably know somebody or somewhere we can go or talk to who can say, okay, this is a good idea, I can help you to do this. I mean, this is how innovation came into being. Someone had an idea and they worked with someone else to make it work.
So how much are you prepared to give back to Dominica in the development of the AI world?
I'm here, man. Just call me. I can give back from what I have, the knowledge I have. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. So wherever we are, whatever it is we want to do, I can assist. I am ready. I'm willing to assist in those areas, as well as plenty of other folks I know who are interested, who want to give back to Dominica, and not just in AI, in everything, in every industry. Dominicans are in almost every industry, and we can find we're Dominican scientists. I actually have a cousin who is a chemical engineer. So we have plenty of people who were ready, willing, and capable. I think sometimes, to be quite honest, I think a lot of times we fail to embrace our own people. Sometimes we are happy when a Dominican does something out there, and we get to claim them, and we get to write them in our newspapers and say, hey, this is a Dominican. We are proud of that. And that's great.
Just hold your foot a while, please. I like that point you're making, but someone is on the telephone. Good evening to you, caller.
Good evening, Sam. This is Steinberg.
My brother Stein.
I've been listening to your excellent contribution. Good evening, Cecil.
Good evening, Dr. Stein.
I was just a simple question, and I'm just teasing you because we've had so many conversations before. I just wanted to ask you, as an expansion to what you've been saying, how does your Christian life your belief, your spiritual well-being. I know you are founded and grounded seriously. How does that contribute to the development of your imagination? And just how does your Christian life contribute to your productivity in general? It would be nice to add that to what you said so beautifully before. Thank you, Cecil. Thank you, Sam. I'm listening. Have a good night.
Thank you, Dr. Stein. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Stein. I expected your call, as a matter of fact, and Dr. Steinberg Henry is a dear friend. As he said, he and I have had many conversations about different aspects of life, and Stein is actually also one of my inspirations in terms of media. I mean, I have hosted a few programs on TDN radio, and that voice of Steinberg Henry, that confidence, his general ability has always been an inspiration to me. And so to answer your question, Stein, it's very important. As you know, like I say, you and I have had many conversations about this. I think it's very important because it's part of the inspiration. Sometimes if I'm working on something and I feel stuck, or I am not sure which direction to go, I open the word and read a verse and forget about what I was working on, and then when I come back, I am ready to go. It flows. So whether that serves as more of a distraction from, sometimes when you are focused on something, you can get stuck, or you can get missed on, or you can miss where you want to go. The direction you want to go can sometimes be confusing, or but if I open the word and I read a few chapters or I read a few verses, then I can go back and complete. And it also inspires my poems. So I've written a few, not a whole lot, but a few of them, which, as I said, for my other writing group, we're working on a book called Reflections, where we have things like poems and devotions and that kind of thing. And none of these things are influenced by religion. They're just influenced, for me anyway, they're influenced by reading the Word of God, and which I believe is truly the Word of God, as I mentioned before. And as I said, people have the choice to either believe it or not, or they have the choice to read it or not. But I think it's important. I think if all of us read it, then maybe we can get something out of it. Sometimes it's the only thing that you can read, that might give you some strength or give you some encouragement. And I think every book of the Bible has something in there that you can read that will encourage you, especially, I would say, maybe the Psalms, for example. You can find a psalm in there that would encourage you, no matter what you're going through. There's sometimes life happens and you don't have no other choice but to go there. And, and you don't necessarily need a pastor or a priest to read it to you. You can do it yourself. And, obviously, they have their priests and pastors, they have their job to do, they have their work, but at the same time, you don't have to wait for them to tell you what's in this word, because who knows, we might not be on the up and up.
So
and
Sam,
we know that.
So Sam, what do you now have to say, especially in this changing world, where we have seen the world not gradually anymore, but fastly changing? What do you have to now tell young people, especially understanding, when I say young people of the Caribbean, especially that we are not like the first world countries? What do you have to really tell our young people to gravitate towards things that really help in changing society?
To our young people, I think a lot of times we, or the older folks, we sometimes dump everything on our young people. We blame them for, everything sometimes. We tend to forget that all young people or behave the way they were raised. They sometimes, you know, sometimes it's not necessarily on them. It's just what they've seen. It's just, and whether that is one thing we won't get into is politics, but I think sometimes the politics of a nation, and it starts with leadership, at the top. Our leaders set the tone for our nations around the world, right? Whether that is our politicians or those in civil society, whatever the case may be. So this tells our young people how they should behave. And again, it goes back to my earlier point that children rarely do what we tell them to. They do what they see us do. They follow our examples. And so I would say to our young people that what they need to do is look for good role models, right? If you're in school and your school has things like a 4-H club, or join the 4-H club if you can, or and some of these clubs I didn't get the opportunity to join, but I still had people around me who were members of the 4-H club or members of the JCs and this thing. So you can find groups, or you can find things, even if you can't join the JCs, or you can't join any one of those larger clubs. You can find friends, find people who are like-minded to you, and then maybe you can find yourself on a different path, and I personally do not believe that we as a society have to wait for the government to do everything for us. I believe the government has a responsibility, and that's anywhere in the world, not just Dominica, has a responsibility to create the opportunities that our young people need to put them on the right path, the direction where they can either create a business or they can get a job or whatever it is that they want to do or they need to do. Because they are the future. We won't be there forever. So we have to groom and create a society that when we leave this earth, we've left something behind, that we're not leaving them in extreme debt, or we're not leaving them in extreme poverty and a society that's decaying. So it's our responsibility to give them the tools that they need and point them in the right directions. Obviously, everything I just said is not easy, obviously, right? So, but we still have to try. We still have to put things in place. Government has to make sure that the nation or young people are educated. But once education is over, what's next? And for a country like Dominica, where almost everyone ends up these days leaving the island, whether that's to further their education or not, then they don't return. I mean, I know people who left Dominica, went to school in the United States and came back and contributed and then left again. So we have to, like I said, we have to put things in place where everyone doesn't simply want to leave, And obviously, people will have different reasons for leaving. That's fine. That's understandable. But at the same time, if everyone leaves, then what's next? Will we have a country again?
So, Sam, in reference to the changing world that we have witnessed, we have seen computers. Yes, AI is another graduation of computers. Where do you think, as developing countries of the region, where do you think that we are placed, that's Dominica, where do you think that we are placed in the rest of the region, knowing the fast improvement of the world? I'm talking about the first world in reference to AI. Where do you see Dominica?
Well, Dominica, we have some brilliant young people. We have some brilliant people. I mean, as you know, we have people who have traveled and they work in some of the larger companies across the globe. We have, so I think that we have to work with not just government, but businesses and even NGOs. We have to, and we can find a way. We can find the ways. I don't have all the answers. In fact, I don't have any answers. I just know that we can find a space to fit ourselves in. But the problem is we can't wait. We can't drag our feet and we can't wait for it to come to us. And that's, to me, is life. Like in anything that you want, you cannot wait for it to come to you. It's not going to. It'll pass over your head. It'll pass and wave you bye-bye. But if you want it, you have to go get it. And I think the same is true for individuals as well as society on a whole, as well as government. We have to invest in our future. And you said Dominica specifically, the government of Dominica has to invest in our young people. It has to invest in today, in the present. Now is the present. Tomorrow is the future. The future is not 10 years down the road. The future is when we go to bed tonight and we wake up tomorrow morning. That is the future. The future is even the next hour from now.
People tend to use the word invest. What do you mean when you use the word invest?
Whatever that entails, whether that is financial investment, whether that is mentorships, whatever it is. One of the things I did, Cecil, after I finished college, I didn't have a job yet. So I went to the youth division, right? I don't remember how long the program was. That's Jose Pascal, Pat Sileta, and these folks, they were still there at that time. So as a young person at the time, I had that. I had that option, So even if I had the skills, I had developed those skills and the training at Clifton UPNA, I still didn't have a job yet. And one of my first jobs I got doing electrical work was because Patsy later told me where to go, And so we have to, again, to beat up on the word invest, we have to invest in our society. We have to invest in our young folks. We have to, and whatever that
investment could be trust, right?
It can be trust. It can be, it is whatever it takes. And I am sure that the powers that be would know where to go, because would know what to do. I'm not a politician, so I don't know how these things work, but I do know that there are things we can do right now to encourage our young people. Like I said, in fact, I started my first business. I was barely 20 years old, right? But so we don't have to wait for the government to do everything for us. We need them. We need our leaders. And this is the reason why they were elected, to put the things in place that we need because we are a nation. We're not an island where people just bought the island and everybody just running around doing whatever they want. We have an island that is a country. It's a nation. And who runs a nation? The government. So that's part of their role, to make sure we have the things in place where we can be self-sustaining, and I don't think you need to be an expert or you need to be a political scientist to figure that stuff out. I just think, to me, that's just common sense,
With the fear that we're talking about with AI, how do you see the United States dealing with the issue of that fear?
Well, I don't necessarily think the US is fearful of AI. I mean, obviously, there are people who would be. Right now, the US is competing with China in terms of embracing AI. And as I told you earlier, AI has been around, and AI machine learning, this has been around since the 1950s. So it's nothing new. all right? And AI is only now the public is getting to use AI on a very limited scale, by the way. If you know, I mean, I am sure that the government has larger uses and has made greater progress with AI than the general public. Right now, what we are using, like what we use to do the songs, for example, that's limited AI. You know, it's I forget the term right now, but it basically means that the AI is can only do what you tell it to do, essentially, right? It's not broad AI. Broad AI would be things that involve uh, things like robots being able to think, for lack of a better term, or robots being able to do things that a human being would do. You know, right now AI is a large. It's AI has basically changed the taxi industry, for example, in the United States, right? Where you can some cities you can go to or some states you can go to and you want a taxi, you can call a self-driving car. It's driven powered by AI. So there are vehicles on the road right now that self-driving, if you will. It's limited in some cases, but at the same time, uh, you can get into a Waymo, for example, and drive around certain cities and you sit in the back and the vehicle is driving itself. And in some cases, even safer than a human being. But not all cases, obviously. But I'm just saying that I think most people see that as a tool, and they can use that as a way to advance society. And maybe it won't work, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. I don't know. No one can tell what's going to happen in the next hour. So who knows? But I still think it's an important tool that we in the Caribbean should be looking at. And I don't, well, maybe a country like Dominica would not be able to embrace AI or bring in AI on its own. So maybe it's something, that's why I keep saying the Caribbean, because I think if we work together as a Caribbean, then we can develop or we can have the resources, because this takes resources. It takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of power. But if we work on it as Caribbean people, as as a group or a team or whatever the case may be, then we could probably achieve something. And even if it's just one thing or one area, one industry, we could that could propel us forward, that could bring some much needed revenue. And from maybe some folks might want to invest in the Caribbean, or invest.
Some people have said already that AI is already functioning in our parts. When we deal with our telephones, we deal with our ATMs, we deal with a number of other softwares that deal with the issue of things that the normal man, would not be able to do quickly. They said that AI is already functional in our parts.
Well, that's true. That is very true. That again, that is on the same scale as using generative AI to generate a sound. That's limited. So, when you call a business, and in some cases you call a business and you get that IVR, the interactive voice, that may be driven by AI. So yeah, definitely. It's part of, and that is just the way telecommunications is going these days. AI is part of the GPS system. It's part of your smartphone, if you have one. So but like I said, all of that is we don't really have a choice in the Caribbean with that, because if you want an iPhone or you want an Android phone, then that's what you're going to get. It's going to come with it. It's built into that system. But what I am talking about is deliberately putting yourself in a position where you can use artificial intelligence driven software to do things like renewable energy, or just power financial, just in financial services. So there are tons and tons of areas where we can use artificial intelligence, and it's not just to make music. It can do lots of other things, even if, as it is now, in its limited capacity in some cases.
Are you one of the person that believe that someday that man will have chips in them?
Probably. I mean, I know there are companies right now who are experimenting with this. I wouldn't be one of them for sure, but I don't, I don't think I would want to have, I wouldn't want to be a cyborg, if you will, but um, yeah, I'd keep it separate. But yeah, I think, as a matter of fact, I remember reading an article not long ago where um, a patient who had maybe cognitive issues, the chip was implanted in his brain, and it works. I don't know. I don't know if that is even true, but so who knows? But I do know that there are companies who are working to achieve this. How far and where it's gonna go, I couldn't tell you. But like I said, there's with technology, there are always people trying, and we will always try to accomplish different things for whatever reason. Whatever their motives are, we can't really tell until things happen in some cases. But
you said that within 5 and 10 years, the world is going to change, will change, for sure. If the Caribbean do not find itself in alignment within that period of time, what do you think would be the Caribbean like?
I think we'll still be behind. Much like, as I mentioned before, the Caribbean did not fully invest in the .com era. I don't believe we invested enough. I mean, I think now we are more invested, but I believe that we missed some opportunities to not only move our people forward and be on the same path with, say, North America, but improve on our economies, help, and I think that making simple changes sometimes can improve on society. Efficiency, I believe, is one of the areas where we could use improvement. And if we can find tools, whatever those tools are, to help us, do something 10 times faster, then we have more time in the day. There's not a whole lot of time, in the day to do things, and we have more to do than there's daylight. So I think it's just up to us to keep going and to find the places and the areas where we fit in, or where we can fit ourselves in, and find partners. We got to find partners who are willing to support us in that in those endeavors. I just think that it's up to us as Caribbean people to find our niche, find where we fit, and find partners who are willing to help us to fit in those areas.
Are you one of the persons who believe that the Caribbean people are still set in the ways that they have been taught many years ago?
I guess I would say yes and no, because I don't think everyone thinks the same way, but it is kind of, sometimes I look around and I see, there are things that we could have or should have been doing. And I don't think we like change too much, put it this way. I think we kind of sometimes have the attitude that if it's not broken, don't fix it. And that's sometimes a good thing. But I think sometimes we can stretch it a little too far. We got to try and, that term, set in your ways. I think sometimes we set in our ways and we don't want to change how we've been doing things. Well, we've been doing it this way forever and it works that way. So, we are just going to keep doing it that way. But sometimes that may not be the most efficient way to do. And whatever it is, it can be anything. It can be in any industry. But yeah, I think we sometimes are stuck in our ways, and maybe that is true for me. I don't know, but I think we are sometimes Caribbean folk. We like our thing how it is, and we don't want to change the way we're doing it, or we don't want to change the way it is because maybe if we change something, it might break. I don't know. It's just how we think sometimes.
Is that a true statement for Caribbean people who live in the Caribbean, or a true statement for people who live in the Caribbean, migrated to other parts of the world, and remain in the same mindset?
Like I said, individuals will always be individuals. So I think it's always up to an individual to change their mind or change their way of thinking, change their mindset. And sometimes I think, like I say, you have to have or find a group of people who think, not think the same way you do, but have the same mindset, because nobody can think like you. Each and every one of us, that's what makes us individuals, have our way of thinking, our own mindsets, our own personalities. However, if a group of people who have the same goals in mind come together and say, okay, these are the goals, or this is a goal we have, and let's work towards that goal, then everyone in the group and the skills will be different, right? The skills won't be the same. But if you can bring all those skills together, then you can move in a different direction and you can move closer to those goals. So it's not necessarily about everyone thinking the same way or everybody having the same mindset. No, it's about those who have the skills or have the tools, have everything that fits together to reach a particular goal, working together. That's how we make change. That's how we make progress. It's not by saying, well, I have my idea and you have your ideas and we all fighting to get our idea in front. Then by the time we are done, we have done nothing, or we complete nothing. So, and I know all of these things are easy to say, but at the same time, they have to be said, because I don't hear these things being said enough, especially from Caribbean people. I don't hear it enough. My brother Stein, like I said, we have lots of conversations about these things. And I just think that we can do better as a people, and going back to growing up in Dominica, we had things like Kudme and working together. And that, to me, as basic as that sounds, that was still a great time. Someone has a problem with their roof or their house or whatever, a whole community comes together, help get that person back on their feet. That's how we grew up. One of my favorite times from Dominica is Independence time right now. And that is because, walking up and down the village around that time, for example, Dominica used to have a great group, cultural group, the Oblievers. And I used to be so proud and so amazed by their talent, dancing our cultural dances and so forth. But then after the original founders of the group sort of got older or left it, it disappeared. And same for many groups around the country. I don't know the reason why, but I just think that we have to keep moving. We can't remain stagnant forever, and we can't have the same conversations over and over again and nothing changes. Me, I'm a person, I don't like to talk. I'm here right now talking, but I like to do things. I like to see things happen. I like to see things being done. Because, we can talk from, as we used to say, January to December, but talking alone changes nothing. We're just talking. You got to talk and put in the effort.
Your favorite time of the year, you said, is independence.
Mm-hmm.
What in independence made you, Sam, the person that you are? What inside of independence made you? What you would take out of independence, that really help in cultivating the Sam that you are today?
As I said, watching the Grand for Cultural Group, take pride in our culture, take pride in our cultural dances, take pride in representing village, and I just love our culture. I love our music, all of it, right? One of the things as TDN Radio's managers, I ensure is that we play Dominica's music all year round. We don't have any seasons. Obviously, during Independence time, we focus a little bit more on the traditional cultural music. But I just love our culture. I love our music, all of it.
Someone said, Sam, as Miranda Harris said, I do believe that our priorities need to be explored. You believe so?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. That's a good point. In everything, we, Cecil, you would know that, in our lives, we are taught to prioritize, right? Or another term is get our priorities straight, right? And we have to do that from as an individual, and we have to do that as leaders, as members of society. Because if you don't know what your priorities are, then how do you decide what you're going to do first? Because how you start your day decides how your day is going to end to a certain extent. If you have no priorities and then you just wake up and you just decide, well, you not even decide, whatever happens. I don't believe that would be sustainable. You got to plan your day.
In saying so, do you believe that our people need to be more committed and learn more to work together?
Yeah, I mean, we can always improve on whatever it is. There's always room for improvement, right? As we're not perfect. We're not God, so we are not perfect. Well, but we have to learn how to be more tolerant to one another, more patient. We learn how to work together, and obviously know that different ideas will contend. You may not always agree with your colleagues. You may not always agree with your coworkers, your classmates, your schoolmates, and which is one of the reasons why whenever you are at school, there is always a group assignment spread up among different groups, right? This is to teach you teamwork and how to work together to achieve a particular goal. And if one team member is not pulling their weight or whatever the case may be, it's up to the rest of the team to pull them up and say, hey, focus, or for whatever reason. So we have to learn to work together. And maybe we are, I don't know, maybe, but I think that even if we are we've learned to work together, or we continue to work together right now, I still think that there is room for improvement in whatever it is we are doing. Again, we aren't perfect. So it's always up to it's up to us to recognize the areas where we fall short, and then we can try to
Coming from where you coming from where we were, that's Dominica, from our Lakou process, the way that we were brought up in the Lakou, minimal or not having at all. Where do you believe we are now compared to those days?
I think that we are still, I mean, Dominica is not the way it used to be when we were growing up. That we know for sure. Um, and maybe that is true for the rest of the world, where, you could leave your entire house open for that matter and go to the garden and come back and still find your valuables in your house, right? That there was a time that's how things were in Dominica. So the world is ever changing, right? And nothing remains the same. The one constant that's we have in life is change. Sometimes it's forced on us. Sometimes we don't have a choice, and sometimes we don't want to accept it. But that's the one constant that we have. So we have to learn and recognize where we are, what's changing, how it's changing, and what are we going to do about that change, right? If it's good change, do we accept it? If it's bad change, what do we do about it? And I'm talking, sometimes there's a rise in crime. Sometimes there's a dip in crime. So we have to look at, well, when there's a rise in criminal activity in a society, what's the cause, right? What are the causes? What are the factors driving this? I think that's how we have to look at these things, right? We have to figure, and then once we know, and it's always never just one thing, it's always multiple things. But I guess the place to start would be to figure out what is more likely to drive up crime, for example, right? Is it unemployment, right? Is that a driving factor? Some science studies say yes, that is, whenever there's high unemployment, the crime rate rises, right? But what do we do about that? And I think those questions should be asked of our leaders, the ones who are charged with leading our society. And that's just my opinion.
Sam, I need to go a little bit into the domestic politics of the United States. A very interesting period in the United States in reference to Americans in 4 weeks from now, on the 5th of November, they should be going to the polls to elect a president. Where do you think the Americans are heading to? Republican or Democrat? And don't tell me because you are a Democrat or because you're Republican. I'll always ask you the rationales. Go ahead.
None of the above. As I told you, I think you have some more qualified people to discuss politics, especially American politics, than I am. I'm not a political scientist or anything like that. But and what I like to say to people is this: don't consume one type of media, or don't consume media that you only like, because what's going to happen is you are only going to see the point of view that you support. And it is very true that as humans, we tend to seek people who agree with us. They may not be right, we may not be right either, but I like to look at the both sides of everything that's happening around me. In terms of the American politics, I watch I watch both the RNC and the DNC, and I watch independents as well, because I don't think that we can make a real judgment just by hearing the side that you actually support. You know, and in any event or in any case, you have to know what your opponent is thinking about you anyway, or what your opponent is saying about you. All right. And then you know how to adjust based on that. People like to use the term, I do my own research. And I think in politics, it's important to do your own research. It's important. And it doesn't have to be difficult. You do your own research by listening to politicians when they speak, or on whichever group. Because your group, the group you support, will tell you what you want to hear. They may not necessarily be telling you the truth, but at the same time, you have to hear what the other side is saying. Maybe the other side is right, and that's on either direction. And that's pretty much what I think about it and what I would say about it. Because, like I said, you want political science to discuss that, scientists rather, to discuss that. I think you know a couple of people. So we leave that there.
No, Sam, in reference to the system of election in America, us, the people in the region, in the Caribbean region, are of the belief that we have the people in America voting first past the post, like how we do it in the Caribbean, first past the post. And we were surprised when Senator Hillary Clinton ran for election and she had the popular votes, but she lost by the college votes. How does that work? Help us to have a greater understanding.
Basically, Americans directly elect their senators and congressmen, right? But the presidency is a little different. We don't directly elect the president. So which is why it has happened a few times where one person wins the popular votes, but loses the presidency because they didn't win enough electors to give them the electoral college, which is what it's called, which is 270 votes in order to become the president. And this is just a basic understanding of it. So, one of the things that I think is the president has an agenda, but there are not a whole lot of things he can do on his own. There are a few things he can do. He has some broad powers in certain circumstances, whether that's to issue executive orders and that kind of thing. But the next president can come and reverse that. So, there are certain things that he can do where he needs Congress to pass a law that he can sign. And even if he chooses not to sign it, which they call being veto it, if there are enough people in Congress, they can override his veto and then it becomes law. So I think it's a real complicated system, because then you also have the courts who can, Congress can pass a law or the state can pass a law, and the courts can reverse that, and it's back and forth, and it's all rather complicated. So, it's not exactly the easiest thing to understand, but, it's the American system. It's unique. It's different.
You're saying it is American system and it is unique, and I'm just chuckling there, because when you hear the Americans sometimes speak like they have the best democratic system in the world, and here it is, you are saying to us that when people go out there and vote, the million of people who go out there and vote, they don't vote for the president. They vote for the Congress. They vote for the governors. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, well, they vote directly for these leaders, but the national or the presidency is different. Is slightly different. I mean, I guess you can say technically you are still voting for the president, but at the same time, not directly. It still takes the president has to win enough electors in each state in order to reach 270. And um, uh, yeah, it's not exactly simple. Like I said, I don't think it's exactly easy to understand, but that's the system. And currently, there are still people who are calling to abolish the electoral college for various reasons, obviously. But that's the system they have right now, and I guess it works for them. Sometimes it becomes marred, or it becomes uh, confusion can happen sometimes, but it
Some
is
people,
what it is, right?
some people are still confused of the electoral college
Yeah,
system. Sometimes you hear that Arizona, little Arizona, is over that of other big states. Florida has much more electoral votes than that of California. So
mm,
now some people are not aware that even in Washington is a district, it's not a state, and so their votes don't count. All of these things, a lot of people are not aware of how this process is actually going through. And I think I'm going to make it my business before the elections to get someone to come on Talking Point or come on a program with me so that they can help to give us in Dominica and maybe the wider region, because there are quite a number of people who still believe in the United States that it's first past the post, like how we
mm.
do. So a lot of people tend to think, okay, you go to bed this morning and everybody likes President Obama, they vote for President Obama, not knowing that, hey, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, even Americans, some Americans don't understand it. It's still to this day. I mean, even some Americans don't understand that the vice president really doesn't have any power. The only power the vice president has is the power given to him or her by the president. So, so that's just life. I mean, we can't all understand everything, and sometimes it takes a little effort, in order to understand something. Me, I've always loved politics as well. So, I've always been interested in political history. So I read a lot. I find interesting things. I watch historical videos about politics and so forth. But not everybody does that. And sometimes I'm at my desk and something is playing on the TV and I'm just listening to it. But not everybody can do that. And so, it's just a matter of sometimes choice or opportunity. And I don't want to be a politician or anything like that. I'm not interested in that in any way. But I like learning new things. I like learning different things. But that is me. Again, that's just who I am. Right?
What's your
Everyone
view?
else is different.
What's your view on the morning of the 6th of November? What's your view?
My view is
Hmm.
somebody is going to be the president elect and somebody will not be.
So
Someone will go home. Someone will go on to celebrate.
where you're seeing Americans are going to?
I don't know. I can't predict the future. Maybe there's something says it. Anything can happen, right? Yeah, and you know that with elections, anything can happen. A lot of Americans are always, I think they are obsessed with polls. Polls are not always right. Polls are not always correct. Polls were wrong in 2016, for that matter. Right? Just as an
President,
example.
Senator Hillary?
Yeah, the polls
Yes.
were wrong.
Yes.
As far as the polls said, Hillary Clinton was going to be the first female president of the United States. But
she got the
at least in
popular
some
votes.
circles.
She got the popular votes.
Yeah, but that's kind of irrelevant, right? Because only with the popular vote, you can't be president. You can't be president.
That's
So
correct.
that's irrelevant,
Yes.
right? So and the thing is, to me, polls are usually inaccurate because poll respondents may not always tell you the truth, right? So they may tell you they support a particular candidate, but they support a different candidate because when they go in that voting booth, Or even if they do support the candidate when you ask, things can change and they change their mind. It's always when they cast that ballot, whether it's on election day or whether it's early voting or whether it's a mail-in ballot, whatever the case is, it's only matters when the person puts that mark or whatever it is, when they select the person they select and say, yeah, this person should be president, or this person, whatever the case may be. So it's always a matter of when the person makes that final decision.
Someone said some states have more amount of electoral points than others. So if the president receives votes in the electoral state and has 270, that person wins. Another person said American politics is wishy-washy. The polls are manipulated. I live in Texas. I understand when we don't read, we lack of knowledge. We must read, and listen. Kamala must win, my vote will count. The person said Kamala must win, her vote will count. Well, I cannot tell you your vote will count. Are you going to be voting for a senator or a congressperson?
No, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
Everyone's vote counts.
Yes,
Everyone's vote.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. What I am saying is that, so basically, if you vote for whichever senator or congressperson, then that vote counts directly. Even if you vote for the president, that vote will count as well. That is how they arrive at the 270. The thing about it is, some people will vote for just the president, right? They will not vote for Congress, right? Others vote for Congress, but not the president. So it's just, again, comes down to the individual and their beliefs, right? There are times when the president one party has the presidency and the other party has Congress. There are times when one party has both, or both branches, with the exception of the courts. But there are times like the president will have both houses of Congress. That's what I mean, and that can help him or her pass their agenda much easier. Doesn't always happen, right? Sometimes the president has both houses of Congress and still finds opposition in passing his agenda.
Yes.
It's just I think it's an interesting system, as opposed to, say, Dominica. We know what's going to happen. One party has to win 11 seats in order to form the government, and we have 21 constituencies. So we know that is pretty straightforward, right? So it's a complicated, sometimes flawed, maybe always flawed system, and I don't think that any political system is impervious to manipulation or any kind of disruption or strange happenings.
So you say that President Trump was wrong 4 years ago?
Wrong. I didn't say that.
In his assumptions.
No. That's. Oh, you mean? Well, no. Yeah, I mean, you mean 2020?
2020, yes.
Yeah, he lost the 2020 election. I mean, let me tell you something. As far as the government says that, even his own attorney general and people who worked in elections said that there was no significant fraud to have changed the outcome. That's what they say. And a few cases that occurred, people were convicted, convicted for fraud, happened to be trying to vote twice, right? And a few of those, most of those people were Republicans. So I'm not saying they're the only ones. I'm just saying those are the few cases that we know that happened. So it just was not significant fraud, voter fraud, to have changed the outcome. The one of the things that that occurred is, well, so I think the pandemic had a lot to do with how the elections turned out. And it's one of the things is that Democrats vote a lot. They do the early voting and mail-in voting has been a Democratic voting manner for a very long time, right? Republicans vote that way too, but most Republicans vote, at least in the past, would vote like to vote on election day, right? For whatever reason. So I think that played a large role, a huge role in how the 2020 election turned out. If maybe it was a normal election, who knows? Maybe he'd have won, but I don't think he's correct on these assertions. I think that, but I digress.
I just wanted to ask you these few questions in reference to looking back, because you made mention earlier on about the politicians. I just wanted to find out from you what is your view in the present upcoming general elections in the United States, and I'm thankful for your insight in reference to what you were able to give us. But let's go back now to the Lakou, coming back from where you came from Grand Fond. When last were you at Grand Fond? When you went there, what did you like to see?
I haven't been to Grand Fond for a while. Even when I left Grand Fond and went to school and then started working, I didn't really go up there very often. I'd go up on a weekend sometimes, especially during Fête Guafon and so forth. But I think Grand Fond remains a place close to my heart. I remember all of the places we used to go to, Go Krong, we used to have my granddad used to have a big, large breadnut tree, right, on the land. So that was one of my, favorite places to go. Go Krong, go to the river, and then go pick breadnut. And my other grandfather, my dad's father, had on this property, we had breadfruits, we had a couple of breadfruit trees actually. We had apricot, nutmeg. So, I forgot we had spice and all of that. So that was something that I actually had to do, help peel spice and that kind of thing. Hurricane Maria destroyed a lot of that stuff, but yeah, it's been, and it's been a while, but at the same time, over here busy trying to build this business, and so and send this young man to school, and so that takes up a majority of my time.
Now, growing up in Grand Fond, you said very earlier on, that in reference to pipe-borne water, it took some time before it actually arrived. At what time did light came to Grand Fond, if you can remember?
Somewhere around the 80s. I don't remember exactly when, but around the 80s. I think right after the power came, mapping came at the time. Mapping had a massive dish by the school, by Grand Fond School. So all of this happened around the maybe mid to late 80s. Yeah.
And when light came, that was a glorious day. I can imagine.
Yeah, man. The thing is, that was also an interesting time, because when they brought power to Grand Fond, they came through the lake, right? So it was pretty interesting to see them, come up from the mountains over that valley and bringing the high tension, and then and then the secondary lines and so forth. I think that was it was fascinating to see that men could do this, uh, pull these massive cables and poles through the mountains. Think they had some tools to assist, like they called the monkey wrench at the time. I'm not sure what the actual word is, but yeah. So it was fascinating to watch. Much like when they built the roads and resurfaced the roads and all of that. Kids, sometimes chasing down or running down behind the caterpillars, and sometimes jumping on it. And if the operator, he was a cool person, he wouldn't tell you to get off. But for the most part, uh, you know how it is. Young people are, when they see something new and fascinating, you're interested and you want to know, well, how does this work? How does that work? That's to me how I remember it. I maybe misremember, whatever, but I think it's pretty.
Toilets. What was the toilets? I know that you had no water, as you said, so you'd have had your latrine.
It's the pit latrine, right? I remember seeing my dad dig a few of those, whenever one becomes unusable because it's full or whatever over the years, you gotta backfill that and build another one somewhere else, or if you have the enough space, or you dig it deep enough where it doesn't fill up so quickly. But I remember seeing my dad having to build a couple of those. My grandparents, they didn't have to build more than one. I don't remember them building more than one. So maybe theirs was deeper. I don't know. But like I said, man, it's just fascinating to see how things change from where they used to be. And again, the one constant in life is change. And how we accept it.
And that's important, the one constant is change. And according to you, is how we accept it. Some of us accept it in a negative way, some of us accept it in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what life is. Change is constant, and we have to always make preparation for change.
Yeah.
And with change, we can see our society growing or not. No, Sam, you're now in the United States. That's where you're now making your living. That's where you're making your life. Any intention of getting your business to also be registered in Dominica?
That would be great. I mean, I would like to someday return to Dominica and, retire there, if you will. Well, not necessarily retire. I don't necessarily plan on doing that, As they say, I'll sleep when I'm dead, but I plan on whether that is, I always want to be doing something, whether that is writing and publishing books, or whether that is working on the computer, as long as my eyes allow me. I certainly would like to retire home. So, we got to find a way to make those, make the conditions conducive for,
I think.
don't know. I mean,
your cousin said going to Krong River, bathing and collecting water. You remember that?
Oh, definitely. No. Well, we didn't really go to Krong to collect water. I think we went to Rongpan most of the time because Krong might have been a little too steep. We would go down there to go in the river, but I don't remember going Krong to collect water. I remember going Rongpan. Rongpan was Rongpan is one of the places where you can get some of the sweetest water in Dominica. I mean, so there were two places. One was called oh my goodness, I forget it was just on my mind. I don't remember it. It was right before Rongpan. I actually talk about it in my story in The Flying Crapo, the original book. The first story in that book is me talking about one day my grandfather told me to go back there and get him fresh water. Or he used to use leeches. So he told me I had to go back there and get water. And at the time, I think other cousins were wrong and they were older than me, but he told me, and it was raining, and I had to go back there with his jerry can and fill out the water. And he told me, don't take water from that particular. It was like it's a waterfall, but it didn't always flow. It would flow more when there's heavy rain. So he told me, don't take that water. Go to the other one, which is the wrong pan one. And I never wanted to go back there by myself because it's kind of scary. It was frightening, scary at the time. Because, as kids, we used to be, again, talking these zombie stories. And so, the fear of, I guess, being taken by a zombie.
Someone told me it is called Touan.
Yes, that is right. Touan. Yes. 100 points for you. That is definitely what it was called. So it's Touan and Wrong Pan. So those are the two places I remember we used to go get water from. That was before.
So one was wrong. So one was wrong hole and one was wrong pan.
Yeah, exactly. The irony.
Because
right?
your cousin said we used to go wrong pan, and Sam, that was fun days.
Yeah, very much, very much, very, very much fun.
And that's George is the one who said it was called Ton One.
Oh, that's my brother. Actually.
Yes, yeah.
Man, this was, like I said, Cecil, these were good times. I can't find anything about those days to complain about. To me, everything that happened during those days were meant to raise us up, and meant to give us good tools and give us, put us on the right path. I mean, obviously, not everybody wound up, where I am. And, it's not on them. Everyone has different paths in life, and we can't always, we can't follow someone else's path. Each of us have our own path, and it is up to us to discover what it is that's there for us, and make our destiny, if that's a better word for you. We gotta make things happen sometimes. It doesn't happen if we don't put effort. It doesn't happen if we don't fight. Sometimes you gotta fight for it, and sometimes you need assistance. You need help from someone, a friend, a family, a business partner or colleague, whatever the case may be. I think there used to be a saying that no man is an island. And that is very true. None of us can do anything in life without the help of someone else at some point in our lives. I don't believe that there is any such thing as a self-made person. If you're a business owner and you're making lots of money or whatever the case may be, you didn't do it by yourself. Because even if you're selling a product, you're not going to buy your own product, right? You needed the customers. So how are you a self-made person? Maybe you work hard, yes, to get there, but you didn't do it on your own. No one can do anything on their own. None of us. At least I don't think so. And maybe there's someone who's done it by themselves. I don't know, but I don't think we can. I think we all need each other, and we all have to find ways to work together, even when our opinions differ on anything from politics to religion. We still have to work together because we live on the same plane of existence. We live on the same planet. So.
You said before you go tonight, you want to tell us a little bit more of some of the people that you work with, especially Man's audio-visual production. Is there an opportunity to tell us now?
Yeah, so like I said, with TDN Network, we run a radio station, online radio station, which, and by the way, during Hurricane Maria, lots of people might remember that myself and Dr. Fontaine and people like Nicole Georges, even Anthony Drago, some other volunteers came on board and helped us to bring the news and bring the information to our people. As a matter of fact, during the day Hurricane Maria hit the island, by the time the power went, we were the only ones still on. In fact, we had taken over Q95's FM and continued broadcasting, bringing information to the folks. Even while the storm was going on, we were able at some point to speak with a few people on the island, almost basically giving a ball by ball. And we did that for 2 weeks and maybe more. So during and after Hurricane Maria, we were bringing information. In fact, we were the first to actually let the rest of the world know what was happening and what had happened in Dominica, how Maria affected Dominica. And I was extremely proud of the people that I worked with during that time. A young man named Julian Antoine, he contacted us because he is a ham radio operator, and he made contact with ham radio operators in Dominica and called, and it was a tough time, having to relay some of the messages, but at the same time, it was important work. And I think that's one of the times that I was the proudest of TDN Radio. And everyone who worked with us, like I said, even Giselle Francis as well was one of the volunteers, Dr. Simon Matthew. So now we're still here, still trying to work to support our people for our programs, whether that's This Week in Interview or Experience Creole or Dissect or just the vibes on a Saturday all day. We have 3 or 4 DJs who are on and so on. And we're still working on new programs. And so, I'm very happy that we get to do these things. And most of it is focused on either Dominican or Caribbean music. So in terms of the entertainment part of it. And with our interview programs, we spend a lot of time talking to either Caribbean artists, or whether they are writers or business people, and no discrimination, if you will. Everybody is welcome, regardless of any affiliation. So if you haven't checked us out yet, check out tdnradio.net, and you'll find a list of everything, all of the programs that we offer. And so, when it comes to my writing groups, Peter Noir, I know some of them are listening and watching. And Delia, thank you for that. All of the others, I won't call all of y'all's name because, but we publish what we call the Flying Crapple, which is also another, how you call it? It's a tribute to our former national dish, the crapple. And we have 3 volumes of that. You can find that on Amazon. If you go to Amazon and you search for the Flying Crapple, you will find that easily. And then I have my own solo work that I just recently published. It's called The Trust. Cover looks like that. For those of you watching, if you go to Amazon and you search for The Trust by Sam George, you will find that. And still working on some other projects. And of course, Cecil, as I said, we have services that we can offer Dominicans, we can offer DBS. We just, we actually want to be an all service provider, from servers to websites to apps, radio apps, if you will, and book design and so on. Help you with your publishing and that kind of thing. So again, website is G&D, that's GAND Enterprises Inc.com. You'll find everything in there. And of course, if you want us to write you a song, we can do that too. I have a great team of people that I work with, that we can write you a special song if you want that, or if you have a song already that you want us to turn into an actual production, we can do that. And of course, support us on YouTube. You can find our production channel. It's called Wooden Lens Studios. That's Lens with a Z. So there are plenty of ways to get in touch with us. If you go to any of these websites or these places, you can find a way. There are ways to contact us, whether that's through the contact forms or call our numbers and that kind of thing. You will find you can get in touch with us that way.
And as I said, I was trying to find out also too, in reference to Man's audio visual production. You said that you work closely with them and you wanted to give some information on that also.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can find Man's Audiovisual on Facebook as well. In fact, and they do tremendous work for This Week in Interview, for that matter. They do our flyers every week. And Derek, we so appreciate that. We appreciate working with Man's. We've done plenty of live productions with Man's Audiovisual. We have a platform where if you have an event and you would like to run it pay-per-view, we do that. We can offer that service. If we are doing a project especially in the Tri-State area, we typically use Man's Audiovisual to do the camera work. And just because they do this work so well, it's what they do. So, and we provide all the other necessities to get your stream live and pay-per-view if you want it pay-per-view, or if you don't want it pay-per-view, if you want it open for free, we can do that. And whether that's a funeral, a wedding, or a concert, whatever the case may be, we got you. And like I said, I work in all of these services we provide. We work with some great teams, some great people who, everyone works hard and does their job, does their part, and so on. So we're here, we offer procurement services as well. So get in touch, and I'm pretty sure there is something we can probably provide for you. And going back to Man's Audiovisual for just a moment, the song you played, well, two of the songs you played, that's Ça Pas Bon, and your track, Cecil, Just One Night. They did the music video for that, and you can find both of them on the Wooden Lens Studios YouTube channel. Just take a look at those two videos, and you'll see the kind of work that Mans does, and again, much appreciated. And you can also find us on Spotify and all of the other digital platforms out there. You can get the music, listen to the music, and support us, subscribe to the channels where that's available. And we got you.
Yolan John Jules said, very good program, bro. Alvin Thomas said, great Lakou program tonight. Excellent delivery, Sam. I'm proud of you, bro. Very smart and articulate with your presentation. Miranda also said that she wanted to know a little bit more of your book, and she asked if it is named Trust. That's what she wanted to know, if the name is Trust. Yeah, she said the book name is the book name The Trust. So she was
Yes,
asking a question.
it's The Trust. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And she was saying how to contact you. She would like to know how to contact you. So just want to say thank you to all the people that are actually sending information or asking questions. Glenn the Shillingford is also looking on, and many other people. And Sam, you really did a very good job tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Cecil. Thanks for asking questions, and thank you for your interest. Miranda, yes, the book is The Trust. If you want to call me, you can call me at 617 329-9434. That's one of the best numbers to call me at. And of course, you can
Repeat the number again. Repeat the number.
617-329-9434.
All right.
Yeah. If you if you're interested in any of our services, or if you just want to learn more about the books and so on. Of course, Alvin, my brother, thank you. And Anthony, thank you for always supporting us. My brother Dr. Steinberg Henry. Thanks for this awesome and great, insightful conversations. And so, of course, one of my best and customers is Miss Lorraine Delsol out there in Canada. She texted me earlier and said she was watching on DBS, and so all of the folks and the TDN staff, TDN people, GN Enterprises folks who are watching and listening, I appreciate you all, and keep up the good work, I guess. And before I forget, my Dissect people will kill me if I don't mention that. Dissect returns to TDN Network and Dissect TV on November 16th, which, by the way, I just realized I'll be the first guest for season 5. So I guess I get to do this all over again, but it ought to be interesting. It'll be an interesting program, so maybe you'll learn something new. I don't know. Yeah, so tune in, check it out. If you've never listened to TDN Radio, tonight is a good time, or it's a good time to start, because you might find something fun to listen to or hear. Kind of different perspective or different kind of programming. We can't always consume one set of thing. Yeah, someone's telling me don't forget Derek, but Man's Audiovisual is Derek. He prefers we mention the company rather than him. So Derek, don't worry. He's a person that I've been trying to get on our programs for the longest while, but he keeps telling me he's shy, but don't worry.
I wish you the best.
I know.
I wish you the best. No, someone is saying I did not get the number. So it's 617
329 9434.
9434. Okay.
And you can call anytime between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Weekdays.
617 329 9434. That's the number you can call him.
That's right.
Okay.
Anytime between business hours, because I tend to I try to not do these things during after hours. I'm still working, but that's when I am writing or doing things or trying to spend time with the family. Right now, it's just my wife and I at home because my son isn't there. The older one is out on his own with his own family. So trying to improve on spending time and that kind of thing. So
Sam, it was a real great night. I enjoyed speaking with you. I told you that 3 hours is going to run quickly. Now we have 3 hours and 45 minutes. I told you. Especially when you're giving information to people. It excites you. It gets the people excited too.
One of the programs I almost forgot, and it's because I see the host was just actually calling me. It's called Believe What's Written, and he does that program on TDN on Thursdays and Fridays.
You have to pay me for that, right?
Well, I told you I'm going to talk about everything, so But yeah,
I'll send you the bill later.
Yeah. We'll talk. I just think it's an interesting program that folks can check out, especially if you are into speaking about the Bible and that kind of thing. So, like I said, we have different programming for everybody, that people can check out. And so, check him out on a Thursday night, 8 p.m. Weekdays, Thursdays and Fridays. So might find the topic he's covering to be interesting. So check it out.
So as we come to the end, Sam, tell us your last few words that you'd want to leave with the listeners and the viewers.
Last few words for tonight would be keep working towards your goals, especially our young people. Don't give up. Life is not easy. Life is not fair. Some will have more than others always, but there's no need for us to give up on ourselves. We got to keep fighting, if we want to progress. And of course, to our leaders, I would say, don't forget to create the conditions within your purview to give our people a fighting chance, encouragement and, education, wherever, financial backing where that's necessary, and so forth, because, we know there are people who are in jobs that they don't necessarily like or they don't necessarily want to do. They would like to start their own business, but they don't have the financial capital or they don't have, so find ways, to, and that's across, our nation. That is across Dominica, whichever group you come from. So I would say, we all need each other. So we got to remember that. And, sometimes it's better to work together than to fight.
I want to agree that it's better that we always work together than we fight. I like to say that we can disagree to agree. But it's not good to fight.
And that's life. We're human beings, so we'll make mistakes. That'll never stop happening. But it's better when we can work together more or at a higher percentage or higher rate than when we disagree or when we create problems and whatever we do as human beings. We can be sometimes impatient and sometimes always ready to fight and whatever, but I believe we can do better. We can always do better, and gotta look within ourselves. I think Hunter had a song where he says, look deep within, and I think if we do that, we can help to make each other's lives just a little bit better, but again, it's up to us.
What you make of tonight's program?
Interesting. I've never done a in-depth interview like that. Like I said, I'm the guy who I don't I don't search for clout, or I don't search for recognition, or I am not I'm not the kind of guy. You won't find me on social media, for example, looking for what we used to say in Dominica back in the day. Looking for noticing.
Yeah.
You won't. That's not me. I like to be in the background, working with people and supporting them, and with whatever resources I can offer, whether that's knowledge or information or whatever the case may be. That's who I like to be. And after tonight, I'm gonna go back to that, until someone else calls me or asks me, So I just, I don't, I like to be basically the producer rather than the host. If I have to do it, I'll do it. But,
for people that are listening to us and viewing, I just want to say to you that the cricket CPL that's still going on. The Kings, St. Lucia Kings, they are batting. They are now 100 and I'll get to the scores in a while. 108 for 4 in 16.3 overs. They are chasing 149. They have 31 more runs to win out of 21 balls. Chase is batting well. He's on 34 with Jones now on some 29 runs, just got a 4. So the 20 more balls, 27 more runs for the St. Lucia Kings to win. And just want to inform people who are actually listening to us and are not able to get the scores as it's going along. Okay, so yes, Sam, very good program tonight. Very good program tonight. I must admit. I enjoyed the conversation with you. I enjoy the information that you were able to give and to disseminate to our listeners and viewers. And I'm sure that they too enjoyed every bit of what you said, especially dealing with the issue of AI.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I hope I was able to disseminate some useful information, and as I said, I'm not the person who you will find looking for what we call or used to call noticing, but if I speak, I like to be able to give people good information, things they can act on.
Someone want to say something to you, hi, or something. Let's see what the person has to say. Good evening.
Yes, good night. Good night, Joseph.
Good night.
Okay, good night to you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
I didn't pick up his name. Yeah.
Sam George. Sam George.
George, good night. I just come in session and I heard the young man speaking. I don't know which part of the world he is. I really like to have a conversation with him, but I just come in. So I would like to leave my number. You can always give me a call on WhatsApp. My number is 265-9673. My name is Ronnie. I'd really like to have a discussion with you, but I realize the program is kind of closing off. So, so I just appreciate your vibes. It seems like you have good vibes. I think that's what we really need. That's what we really need. And Mr. Joseph, I have something to tell you. Mr. Richards and Mr. Zazak. They're doing some excellent work with tires, like they can make a settee out of tires. I think you should take a sample and display it somewhere. I tell him you need to have an exhibition for the Independent. That's your former radio personality guy, Mr. Richards in Pottersville. Doing some excellent work, man. If you see some work the man doing with tires, they're making a settee like with chairs and glass tables. I tell him you need to put an exhibition by the road in Pottersville, at least for the Independent. Brother, keep on doing the good work to put Dominica on the map.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Tell me your number again, please.
My number is 265-9673. I also have a Facebook page with my product at ronnieharper.com.
Okay.
If you go on that email, you'll see my products and you can stroll up on it. You might see 2 videos where I make some local products, so you can look up on that. And my email is also Magic Garden, but I have a Facebook page which is ronnieharper.com. And you could see
Ronnie
some
Harper?
of my products.
Is that Ronnie with IE or NN?
No. RONNI.
Okay.
HARPER. Harper.
All right.
So that's
all right.
You could click up on my Facebook page. You could see the products I do. Have a good night, brother.
I got you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Look it up.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much. Yes. Last words.
What else can I say? I think I've said quite a bit tonight. I think, I mean, we just gotta, like I say, find ways to work together. American politicians like to say things like, there is more that brings us together than what separates us, or something to that effect. I don't remember the exact quote, but we are human beings, so we gotta find ways to lift up each other, lift up one another, lift up each other. Help us build ourselves, build one another, regardless of where we come from or whatever. If we are all trying to go in the same direction, then we got to find ways to work together. That might be hollow words to some folks, but I think we can do that because other countries have been able to do it. So why can't we? We are no different from Germans, or Americans.
Singapore.
Or, in certain terms, in certain areas, we are not different. We are all human beings. So it's up to us, and Dominica, if we love Dominica, like we always claim, then what do we do? Do we sit back and watch it turn into something we don't recognize or we won't recognize in 20 years? Or do we fight? Do we do the work necessary to, and it's not about keeping things the same way, but it's about improving things in such a manner where we can still recognize ourselves as Dominicans, and at the same time, recognize our nation as a place for innovation and building whatever industries we can build. We have plenty of Dominicans who are extremely talented. They are great singers and musicians and writers, all of that, and whatever other fields. But not everyone can be a singer. Not everyone can be a writer. Not everyone can be a lawyer or a doctor. But, so again, we all have our talents and we all have the things we can use to build a better society. And it seems like the world is crazy now, but when has the world not been crazy? So I don't see that as an excuse. I don't think that's an excuse that we can just say, oh, well, the world is about to end, but, no one knows that. None of us know what's going to happen. Like I said, the next 30 minutes is the future. I don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, let alone what's going to happen next week, tomorrow, or the day after that. Yeah, we just don't know. So we got to live in the moment, live in the present, and do whatever it is we can to reach our goals, in fact.
Thank you so very much. That was a bomb tonight, and I appreciate your contribution tonight. Thank
you.
You on spot. You give us real insights. You give us some food for thought, and you allow us to understand who you are. Sam from Grand Fort. Mm-hmm. Sam George.
The best village in Dominica. White City, boy.
I want to thank you so very much, Sam.
Thank you very
honestly
much.
Want to thank you.
I appreciate
yes.
you reaching out, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Sam. God bless you.
God bless.
All right, then. That was Sam George from Grand Fort, as you heard. I really do appreciate what he did for us here tonight. And so we will not be on next week because